about it. Hello there, Steve. Thanks for joining us. What is the latest in this whole dispute? What's happening at the moment? Do you know?
Well, I believe that the dispute you're referring to is actually another union. It's not the RMT, it's a transport, but TSSA, which is mainly a clerical union. And like everybody else, they've been in negotiations with the train operating companies and Network Rail. And is that the employers have told them in no uncertain terms that the government aren't allowing the employers to make an offer to settle a strike. Now, I don't know if you're aware, but the strike in Scotland has actually been settled. They settled for 5% and a £750 bonus, which wasn't included in the rate of pay, which I think is a terrible deal. It's only half the price of inflation, but that deal has been done. So I wouldn't be surprised if the government were told to put out and the train operating companies made a similar deal south of the border.
Well, yeah, and if it was made, would you expect that to be taken as well?
Well, I would hope not. I think it's a shocking deal. It's an appalling deal after all the money and time that people have been out on strike. It's less than half the rate of inflation, but nevertheless, that deal's been accepted in Scotland. So, I think the strategy that the leadership have had of having a couple of days of action per month and then not having any action for a month and then repeating that has been ineffective, and I think the membership may well have been worn down by that. So I think if an offer is made, something similar to the offer made in Scotland, there is the danger that people might accept it because they're demoralised, yeah.
Well, yes, demoralised, but also, I mean, nobody likes being on strike, do they? So maybe, even though you're not impressed by what might be the deal, if most of the workers consider it acceptable, it's a good deal, isn't it? Just before Christmas, it's good for everybody to settle.
Well, I think it is good that if a deal was good enough to settle, then that deal would be put. But I don't think that the deal that's currently on the table is good enough to settle. That's my opinion. Obviously, the members will be given a vote on that. They'll have a referendum ballot on that, and they will decide. But I really hope that people, after sacrificing all the money and time that they have, and put up a fantastic campaign, won't let themselves down and won't let the union leaderships do a deal that isn't in their benefit.
What would you say to one of our viewers and listeners, Martin, Steve, who says strikers are selfish because we all have to suffer the economic crisis? We'll all end up paying for their increased salaries.
Yeah, well, I mean, Martin seems to be economically illiterate. The inflation hasn't been driven by the strikes. It's been driven by food prices. It's been driven by oil prices. It's been driven by profiteering companies. We're now the fifth richest country in the world. About 3% of people enjoy over 40% of the GDP, the wealth of this country. And we need to redistribute that, you know. So when you've got people who are coming on making comments like that, you better just ignore them, really, aren't you?
Well, it's got a point, though, in that, you know, when it comes to the NHS, we'll all end up paying more in terms of taxes, which we are doing anyway, and national insurance potentially. When it comes to train tickets, we'll end up paying more. I mean, he's perfectly valid on that, isn't he? I mean, it's all got to be paid for somehow.
Yeah, and so do people's food bills when they go to the shop, and so do the gas and electric people use in the house. And when inflation is absolutely rampant, and inflation's 11%. Food inflation is 12.5%. People's real salaries, that's taken into account inflation. The real salaries are fallen by about 20%. And basically, what's happening here is the government are going to engineer, unless they start giving people pay rises, they're going to engineer a recession because people won't be able to buy the goods in the shop, and that's already happening. I think if you look at the trends running up to Christmas, people are not buying stuff because they've got to pay their electric bill and they've got to pay the mortgage and they've got to pay for the extra prices on food. So it's not good for the economy to go into a recession where you've got zero growth or negative growth. And the argument that people will have to pay more taxes, well, people are paying more taxes anyway. Your taxes are actually going to fund the train operating companies, which are getting billions of pounds from the government. It's just not being redistributed to the workers who are working there. Same in the NHS. You've got private companies in the NHS making an absolute killing, figuratively and literally. And we've got, massive rip-offs, and then we've got 100,000 vacancies because they're not paying enough people enough to stay in the jobs. So, that is the real situation.
Yeah, well, I guess a lot of people would say, but we've all got to compromise somewhere along the line. And whilst you might not feel that the pay deal is generous enough, isn't that the case? We've all got to compromise and buckle under. Times are tough.
Well, they're not tough for some people. The top 1% in this country, the proliferation of billionaires, the absolute profiteering oil companies, the people that put their taxes in the Cayman Islands instead of paying them over here, those people seem to be doing all right. Why don't they have to buckle under for a change? Why is it always working class people who have to take the hit? And people are fed up with it, they're not going to be driven into poverty where they're over the winter. They're going to have to make a choice. Do they eat properly or do they heat their houses? And it's just not acceptable. So there's enough money in this country, the fifth richest country in the world. It's just in the hands of a small minority of people, and that is the change.
Steve Headley, good to talk to you as always. Thanks very much indeed.
Can't help but agree with you there. Time and again you read headlines about people at the top of these big companies who are still walking off with massive profits and huge bonuses.
There's very, very few of them, though, isn't there? I mean, that's the thing. Do you expect... I mean, look, I'm not in that, but it'd be lovely if I was heading up a lovely company and making hundreds of millions of pounds a year. How nice that would be, for me, at least. But do you then have to say, well, I'm going to reduce a lot of that, cut that in half, cut it by 3/4 to fund everybody else?
Yes, I think so.
Do you?
Yeah.
I don't know that I do, no, to be honest. It's because doesn't that then stifle... I mean, look at someone like Richard Branson, who's actually sort of very liberal-leaning, isn't he? But he makes an absolute blooming fortune. But because he's an entrepreneur and, he's one of a kind. And
yeah, but he's not running gas companies and electricity companies, and it's those...
He was running train companies, wasn't he?
He was,
I mean,
yes.
not anymore.
I don't think ever very profitably, actually.
Well, no, maybe not.
I think they always had problems, didn't they? But, well, I don't know. How do you feel about it? I don't know. I just think there are some companies that are making too much money and just getting away with it. And I think at the moment when you say times are tough and we should all compromise, maybe they should do a bit more compromise.
Oh, yeah, undoubtedly. Undoubtedly they should. But, whether they will... It doesn't seem like the unions or someone like Steve Headley doesn't want to compromise.
Well, I know.
Inflation. But you see, he goes on about inflation, and yet... wage increases, wage inflation drives inflation.
He's very embittered, though, isn't he, by the obvious divide between rich and poor. And the fact that in a capitalist society, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, I'm afraid. It's true, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, but then do we want a communist society?
No, we don't want that either, do we? No.
I don't know. Anyway, let us know what you think. There's no easy answer to it.
No, there isn't.
We can ponder it all we like. There's no easy answer to it.
It's one of those things that you argue about over the Christmas dinner, isn't it?
And you'll come to no conclusions by the end of it, sadly. We've got much more to come, including the papers with Emma and Kevin.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory.
twice baked. Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
and YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio,
with the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning to you. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Anne.
OK, let's have a look at the papers now. Joining us this morning, political editor of the HuffPost UK, Kevin Schofield, and writer, columnist and journalist, Emma Wolfe. Hi, thanks for coming back. Emma.
Yes.
Ooh, strikes and more strikes.
Oh.
On the front page of the Times.
Such depressing news. I'm desperately trying to find good news. Yeah, this front page of the Times, nurses will walk out of cancer and A&E. We know we have these 2 strike days planned for before Christmas, December the 15th and December the 20th. And it's been confirmed by the Royal College of Nursing, front page of the Times, that actually emergency departments, maternity care and cancer will not be excluded from those strikes. So this is
I'm surprised at that.
Yeah, this is very bad news for a lot of patients. Around 140,000 operations could be cancelled. Around 100,000 nurses going to walk out. This is the demands for 19% pay increase in the cost of living crisis. No comment. Pregnant women...
Make a comment.
Well,
go on.
I'm just so aware of the fact that, and I've said it before on GB News, I'm so aware of the fact that taxi drivers, cleaners, they're trying to get to work. When we have these big strikes, when you have an old person who's got a hip operation, OK, that's not critical care, but when you're waiting for a hip operation and you're in pain, you've been waiting 6 months. I just feel that striking at the moment, no one is getting a pay increase. We are all in it together. And, many nurses do a fantastic job. But I'm just, 19% pay demands. I feel it's beyond the pale, actually. Okay. Anyway, so there are 5 areas that are going to be protected.
It's not realistic at the moment.
It's not realistic,
are they?
And there are many, many other workers who are trying their best and don't have unions and don't have the option of going on strike. So there are 5 areas that will be protected, which is chemotherapy, critical care, kidney dialysis, paediatric and neonatal. Apart from that, a lot of services are going to be cancelled, are going to be hugely disrupted before Christmas. And then we've got the looming threat as well of ambulance strikes walking out. People will die if they cannot get an ambulance.
Well, people are dying now because they can't get an ambulance.
They don't know they're having a stroke. They don't know they're having a heart attack. You may be in a critical state. You may not be. But you need an ambulance if you ring 999. And, I just think we really are heading into a very, very difficult time health-wise.
Yeah, no 2 ways about it. The Express, Kevin, looking at the point of no return for Prince Henry of Wales.
Yeah, so according to the Express, the King is still holding out hope that things can be resolved between Harry and William, and I suppose Harry and the rest of the royal family. Now, I think I'm right in saying that when the King did his first TV address...
Oh, he did, he mentioned it.
He mentioned Harry, didn't he? And wishing him well as he builds a new life in America. So there is clearly, you know, a deep love there, as you would expect, for his son, and he's not willing to give up on him, despite, you know, this book that's coming out in the new year. I think the royal family are holding their breath, waiting to see what's going to be in that. And this Netflix documentary, which I think begins next week, we saw the trailer for it. It looks like it could be potentially quite explosive.
It does.
But despite that, as I say, the King is still holding out hope that things can be resolved. But it says that if, in either the book or the documentary, Camilla is criticised, Charles won't stand for that, or if Diana is held up as a sort of saint and the King is criticised by his son over the divorce, etc., then that may well be... And they talk about they'd take away all these titles, then it wouldn't be the Duke of Sussex anyway, everything would be gone. So,
you know,
high stakes.
I hate to say it, I do. I've liked Harry for a long time. I think it's about time he was stripped of everything. I do.
Well,
if only because it'll shut her up, to be honest.
I'm not sure it would.
Well, no, but she'll no longer... She won't be a duchess.
Well, you would be a duchess, yeah, and obviously that, I think, in America in particular, that does carry quite a lot of currency. But yeah, it's, as I say, high stakes.
It really is. And we know that Netflix want to get their money's worth. You know, we know that this documentary is going to contain...
And it's 6 parts. I mean, it's a lot of TV.
And the astonishing thing is that even yesterday they were saying that Harry and Meghan, the Californian Duke and Duchess, are talking about wanting to rebuild and repair their relationship with the royal family after the documentary and the book. Do they really think? I mean, it's like throwing a torch, flaming torch into a barn and then trying to close the door after the barn's bolted.
They're clearly on another planet. While this country is where people are worried about their bills and whether they can afford enough food and all the rest of it, they have forgotten how privileged they were and are.
Astonishing
they don't have to
privilege.
Worry. They don't have to
when
worry
you
about
see that
seeing a
documentary and she says, you know, oh, when the stakes are this high, it makes sense to hear it from... Whose stakes? It's about their relationship. It's about their side of the story. It's absolutely ludicrous. It's so narcissistic and self-regarding at a time of crisis.
They've
really lost the plot.
And the way that the relationship between Harry and William is clearly completely broken down. I mean, given how close they were growing up and all the experiences that they had with their mother dying, etc. I think for the Netflix trailer to drop while they were in America, I mean, that was a particularly pointed...
And with that awful picture of Catherine, which would clearly...
Yeah, that was really vicious, to use a certain photograph of her looking a little bit, you know, sort of, she was looking a little bit critical, and they used that photograph in a very timely way. One can only sort of thank our stars that the Queen isn't here to see all this, because I think it would... This really...
Well, one wonders as well now that the Queen is gone, whether Harry and Meghan feel that they can say what the hell they like now.
Well, yeah, because he was very close to his grandmother, wasn't he? And he probably wouldn't have wanted to have done it.
But I think they jetted off to California and signed a lot of deals, lucrative deals, the book deal, the Netflix deal, and now they have to deliver.
And all these lovely, never-before-seen photographs of them embracing each other in the kitchen at Frogmore. How come they had a photographer there?
Oh, it's so posed, you couldn't make it up.
I know. Yeah. And
behind the
photograph of Meghan apparently looking as though she's breaking down while she's sitting on this beautiful white sofa with a white orchid.
That's exactly what I thought. When you're having a breakdown, you don't do it quite that stagily.
When you're having a breakdown, do you have a photographer in the house as well? I mean, what's going on?
She does a lot of crying, doesn't she?
Yes.
With a photographer present.
Yeah, with a photographer present, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm fed up with them now, I really am.
Oh,
there's the white
perfect
orchid.
manicure.
And that's that shot of Catherine. And then that as well. Like she's, Clearly,
a lot of people will watch
the royal family should never marry Americans.
Absolutely.
It never goes well.
It doesn't go well, no.
Oh, dear me.
It's very interesting, though, when you ponder that as well, because ultimately the King, Edward VIII, was he Edward VIII?
Eighth, yeah.
Sixth, eighth, I can't remember now. he never thought he would become unpopular with the British public, but he did. And his exile was real exile in the end, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
He was sort of forgotten.
But I think it's interesting as well that the Harry and Meghan stuff, it's become almost like part of the culture wars in this country as well, you know. It's weirdly split down political lines.
You can't have the
as well.
You can't have the discussion with my sons.
Really?
They're all on Harry's side.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Are they really?
It's not going to end well. That relationship, you do not have a good, healthy relationship based on hating your family, the people that you've fled. No, it will not end well.
And you only have to look at her reputation. She's alienated her own family completely, and now she's alienated Harry from his.
And I think as well, you know, although the Express says the King is willing to give Harry another chance and hopes it can be resolved, I just don't see how William and him can patch it up again, you know?
It depends what comes out in the book, if there's anything particular
Brothers don't forgive, fathers forgive.
Yeah, it's a different relationship, isn't
very
it?
different relationship.
Anyway, let's move on from that to dieting. Should we?
Well, healthy eating, apparently a handful of almonds. Now, I should say these have to be the boring, raw, unsalted almonds. A handful of almonds before a meal can stop you snacking, can stop you overeating.
Right, full of fat and calories.
But just a handful.
Why?
But
they have a dramatic effect on those hormones, the sort of satiety hormones, leptin and ghrelin and all of that, the ones I haven't written down. Around 30 to 50 grams of almonds, which is just a few. In volunteers, 140 overweight volunteers were found to eat 72 fewer calories at an all-you-can-eat buffet, which is basically like a digestive biscuit. So it doesn't really have a dramatic effect.
No.
So you have your almonds, which are probably more than 72 calories,
And
and
they'll
then
fill you
they
up.
ate 72 fewer calories at a big buffet.
All right, well, we're not going to go mad on that one then, are we?
But it's interesting time of year, because often before Christmas meals, people are snacking on nuts and things like that. So it's good to be aware that actually nuts can slow down the gut digestion and can just take the edge off your raging hunger.
But not your
But then the alcohol will probably...
dry roasted or your salt and vinegar peanuts, stuff like that. You're not talking about the really tasty ones.
I love these studies. When you look into them, actually, you realise that...
Let's just quickly have a look at some dad jokes in the Times, Kevin.
Yeah, I'm not sure why this one appealed to me in particular, but yeah, it's shown that dad jokes, apparently, despite them having a bit of a bad reputation, that people actually do like them, and that groaning at a dad joke is actually a sign that you like it. So this is, if you like puns like I do, this story is just awash with plays on words, and there's also a list of jokes at the bottom, dad jokes. Do you want to hear a couple?
Give us one, yeah.
I got into a fight with 1, 3, 5, 7 and 9. The odds were against me. You see, you're groaning. You like that one?
But groaning means that we rather appreciate it.
Also like this one as well. A lorry full of hair-restoring tonic overturned and flooded the street. Police are combing the area.
Get in touch with your dad.
There's plenty more where they came from too.
GBviews at gbnews.uk. Go on, Boris Rotten with your dad jokes.
Kevin, Emma, we'll see you a little bit later on. Thank you very much indeed. Let's just have a quick look at some of the top stories at 7:47. And 6 children under the age of 10 have now died from a Strep A infection in the UK. The Health Security Agency is investigating after a rise in cases. 5 deaths recorded in England since September, 1 in Wales. They're warning that a lack of mixing due to the pandemic could be behind a drop in immunity.
Meanwhile, the former health minister, Matt Hancock, has warned that he was warned early that COVID-19 could kill hundreds of thousands of people in the UK. In fact, it was 2 months before we actually went into lockdown. He's got a new book out in which he says that the Chief Medical Officer for England, Professor Chris Whitty, of course, informed him in January 2020 that a worst-case scenario would be that 820,000 people could die.
And the Prince of Wales has declared he wants to supercharge the impact of the Earthshot Prize finalists to inspire a despairing world that there is a way forward. It took place last night in Boston. The Princess of Wales wore a rented green gown for the event. Organisers have encouraged guests to dress sustainably by wearing vintage clothing or recycling outfits. So you can tell they're posh. I was going to say, recycling outfits just means you wear something more than once. So my entire wardrobe is recycled.
But she rented it, which you can do now with posh frocks. Apparently very important.
Yeah.
Anyway,
there you go.
she looks fab in whatever she does, but she could wear a bin liner and she'd look wonderful, wouldn't she?
She would, wouldn't she? Anyway, talk about looking wonderful. Stephanie Tetch is here. Good morning. Is that recycled, Stephanie? Is it brand new?
No, it's not, but I have a lot of recycled stuff in my wardrobe, though. Kate did look fabulous.
It is.
I was straight onto that website.
Mint green. What, you were onto the renting website?
Yeah, the rented website.
How much does it cost to rent a frock like that?
Ideally, I think it cost her about £148, and I was like, that is a bargain for that dress because it looked awesome.
It did, to be
and
fair.
Obviously, she was wearing Diana's necklace.
Yes.
Wow.
She rents it and she gives it back, I presume. So somebody, I wonder who's going to wear it next.
They're probably going to have to put that away, actually, that dress.
For a while.
Yeah,
a very long while. Price will go up, won't it?
Definitely.
£149.
It's the Kate effect.
Now, let's talk Peter Kay.
Yes, 12 years in the making. You know, over the past few years, there's been this big question in showbiz and comedy circles, where is Peter Kay? He was due to do a concert, a live tour in 2017, and he just pulled out due to unforeseen circumstances around his family. And he's never actually come out and said what happened. He just disappeared. But last night he was back with a bang in Manchester at the AO Arena, and he received a standing ovation. And that is how much he's been missed from comedy. He was brought to tears because he was like, this is a bit emotional. And this has been very last minute, this tour, because it wasn't until last month when most people were watching I'm a Celebrity, an advert popped up of him saying that he was going to come back to comedy, and he's thinking about the cost of living crisis, and he only charged £35 for the tickets.
Oh, you see now that? So Peter, I mean, he could get 10 times that.
Yeah. He's doing it at the same price as his last tour in 2010. So he's just keeping up with that, which is quite great.
Now, look, I have to confess, I don't know very much about Peter Kay at all. I'm just not into stand-up comedians.
He's my favourite Northerner, other than Stephen.
Is his story like so many, a comic with a sort of dark inner mind or something?
No.
So many comics are like that, aren't they? They have mental health problems or whatever.
No, that's the thing. I think Peter's quite a jolly character. Like, you know, like most, as you said, most comedians have this dark story, but he hasn't really had this dark story, or he's managed to keep it away from the glare of the public. Because, as I said, like, he's disappeared for mostly of the last 4 years, and we still don't understand why he's lost. He disappeared. There was even a lot of news articles at the time that Peter Kay had died. There was so many things that were popping up, but proving to last night he's still alive and kicking.
Alive and kicking. And I tell you what, this is a long tour, isn't it?
He's going to be doing 110 dates over the next 2 years until July 2025, and it's going to be all over the UK. But I guess he's making up for lost time. In 2010, he got into the Guinness Book of World Records for performing up to 1.2 million people in his last tour.
I don't know if you can hear, but it sounds as though the removal men are sort of moving us out of the office or something. They're not, actually.
I think it's the bins
Is
outside.
it bins? Well, they must be very big bins. It's making a heck of a noise.
Wake up more.
The man is a comedy genius, because a lot of it is observational. It's stuff we can all relate to. And then, of course, he did stuff like Phoenix Nights. I mean, I just think he's one of those really rare people that you can just relate to.
And I think as well, you know, I worry for most comedians when it comes to cancel culture, but I don't think Peter Kay has anything to worry about, because his jokes are very clean, they're very warmly, very, like, people can connect with him. He just brings this good spirit feeling every time he's on stage.
So it's just mysterious why he went quiet.
And I've been Googling, I want to talk to his agents, I need to know why he disappeared, but I'm sure that will come out in due time. He recently lost his nan, which was a very close person to him, his rock, but yet again, he hasn't really gone into that.
Yeah.
So the mystery...
Have you never done the garlic bread thing? Garlic? Bread? Garlic bread? Oh, that's
honestly, for some reason, I just don't know.
We need to get Peter Kay on the show.
Oh,
that would be nice.
For once, I would be lost for words. I mean, I just think the man.
Have you seen him live?
No, but boy, do I want to. The man is a genius.
Well,
I know I would just sit there crying, laughing.
He's definitely put Bolton on the map.
Oh, yeah, he certainly did. Stephanie, thank you very much indeed. Catch up with you later on. And we've got all the top stories coming up in just a few minutes.
Morning, Alex Deacon here with your weekend weather forecast. Chilly one out there this weekend thanks to easterly winds. Many of us will be dry, but there will be a few showers around, particularly in the east. It's high pressure dominating our weather. The centre of this high is a long way away. Got low pressure down to the southwest, and between the two, they're generating these easterly winds, bringing the air in from the North Sea, which is never a warm direction. It's also in the east where we'll see most of the showers today, scattered across eastern parts of England and Scotland. Maybe some more persistent drizzly rain over the Highlands and the Western Isles. Elsewhere, many places dry, perhaps a bit brighter than yesterday. It's not as foggy as recent mornings, and we should see a bit more in the way of sunshine. Bit chilly in places first thing by this afternoon. Temperatures only struggling up to 6, 7, maybe 8 Celsius, but add on that breeze, it will feel colder than that. And still a few showers around this evening, particularly over northern England, down into the Midlands, 1 or 2 across the southeast as well. We'll keep some outbreaks of rain going across the Western Isles of Scotland through this evening too. We'll keep a lot of cloud across the south. That should help to prevent a frost. Shouldn't be as foggy again either, but some clearer skies across western Scotland, northwest England may well allow a touch of frost here and there. Most of us, though, will start tomorrow about 3 or 4 degrees. A lot of cloud again tomorrow. And northeast England, southeast Scotland and southern parts of Northern Ireland likely to see the bulk of the showers during Sunday. The showers will be of rain, perhaps a little bit of snow on the tops of the hills. Further south, maybe the odd light shower, but much of the south just dry and fairly drab. Some brighter skies in western Scotland. Temperatures, well, if anything, a little lower tomorrow, only 6 or 7 for most of us. The wind will be stronger as well, so it'll feel even colder. And next week, it's staying cold. If anything, turning perhaps a little bit colder with the possibility of some snow showers later in the week. Stay up to date with the forecast.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even some ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB Plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dubes & Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Dubes & Kerr.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by 2 of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Good morning to you. It's 8 o'clock. It's Saturday, the 3rd of December, and this is Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Anne.
Here's what's making the news for you this morning. 4-year-old Camilla Rose Burns remains in hospital this morning as she becomes the latest child to contract Strep A. Now, this comes as 6 others have died in the UK after contracting the bacterial infection. Health officials are issuing warnings to parents and school staff about signs and symptoms.
Professing his love for his girlfriend and pleading for the public's forgiveness. We'll take a look at Matt Hancock's upcoming pandemic diaries and ask what on earth can be next for the former Health Secretary.
And they've been dubbed the 12 Strikes of Christmas. As Rail, Mail and health workers walk out, we'll have the latest updates on how that is all going to affect you.
Also this morning, the Prince and Princess of Wales were dressed to impress on the green carpet last night for the Earthshot Prize, and our reporter was there to capture the evening, honouring environmental pioneers.
And as ever, you know how to do it. You can get in touch with us, join in any of our discussions by emailing us gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Well, we start with the news then that a 4-year-old girl is fighting for her life at Alderhay Children's Hospital in Liverpool after developing Strep A.
And as we were saying, it comes after 6 primary school children have died from the bacterial infection. And health officials are issuing a warning to parents when it comes to spotting those symptoms.
Well, what are the symptoms? Let's talk to NHS GP Dr Veena Babu once again. Good to see you.
Hi, guys.
What do we look out for then with this?
I think it would be really smart to isolate what a cold would look like a common cold. So if you have a runny nose, watery eyes, that we would think would be more viral. But then if a high fever persists, the sore throat becomes more painful, you start having muscle aches, your appetite goes down, you're not producing as much urine, not going to the toilet. If children are getting a bit more drowsy, not being as responsive, you don't want to wait around, you want to get some medical advice. Yeah.
And insist on seeing your GP.
Absolutely.
Stress the symptoms to make sure. Now, what I think most people will be very alarmed at hearing that there have been deaths for what is a bacterial infection and should be treatable with antibiotics.
Yeah, and I think this is why parents need to really take the front seat in this, because be alarmed. Look, what we were saying earlier, you know, how your child looks, feels and feeds, and then just respond basics to that and look at the images, compare it, speak to other parents, get medical advice quite soon, because in the majority of cases, although it's mild, you don't want to be the case where unfortunately something more dire happens.
I know this sounds really harsh, because if you've one of those families that have lost a child, then your world has fallen apart. But looking at the bigger picture, 6 deaths in the UK is not a lot.
Is it usual?
So should we be worried?
I would, as in, if you're the one on the receiving end of that loss, once again, our deepest condolences to the families and loved ones. So I think any death is a lot. I wouldn't be able to, otherwise. But if we're looking at serious consequences, last year, before COVID, it would have been around 0.5 to 1 per 100,000 cases, whereas now we're seeing up to 2 to 3 per
Of
100,000.
deaths?
More severe cases with the Strep A serious complication. So there is a rise, and there is an increased number of scarlet fever, impetigo, all of this coming about. So it's not something we can ignore.
So it's always around. It's always been around.
Always around, especially in the winter seasons. We see a lot of it. So what parents should keep mindful of is if your child gets a fever, they get a bit unwell, they get a sore throat. So you could have strep throat. Look in the mouth, look at the tonsils. Are they enlarged? Are there any white spots in there? That is one form of it. If you then get a rash, which could be...
This is your strawberry tongue you were talking about.
Yeah.
So swollen tongue with that white...
with a bit of a white film. So then if you get that kind of a tongue and a rash on the body, which looks different in different skin colours, so that is on darker skin. It just looks a bit like a heat rash if you look at it, like a sandpaper texture. The rash could be around the face, where it could be quite red, sparing the mouth. It could be near the armpits and the groin. So that would be typical of scarlet fever. So we'd want to see your doctor who could do a swab of the throat. But the key thing is starting antibiotics quickly.
Now, that's what worries me, is that if, as a parent, you're going to your GP and you're saying, I'm really worried, I've heard about Strep A, we've got all the symptoms, give me antibiotics. And the doctor, because doctors nowadays are so reluctant to give antibiotics, is there a worry that they will be too reluctant?
I don't think in this case, because of course we don't want to increase resistance by just throwing antibiotics at everybody. But when there are groups of people that are more susceptible to this, say the immunocompromised, the ones on cancer treatments, the ones who have diabetes and things like that, and especially young children, I think a lot of doctors that I know also preemptively give antibiotics. So if you're presented on day 1 of your illness and your child is quite stable, we might say, here's a prescription, hold on to it. In the next 12 to 24 hours, if there's no improvement, start the antibiotics. That way parents also take a bit of control on how they're managing these things.
Yeah, so it's a case of trusting the parents to know about their child's health as well.
And this is where, education, knowledge is power. And we're in a day and age where the internet is at everyone's fingertips. So let's use that knowledge to empower ourselves.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously, self-diagnosis online can be a disaster. But looking at some of these images then actually can be a useful diagnostic
Absolutely.
tool.
I think it can be a disaster, but when when you read up a few things, look at the child in front of you and you have a point of reference, which is images, taking that to your doctor, when my patients come to me with that, I actually commend them. I'm like, really well done on reading up about this, and we can then give them information about what's correct and what isn't. Because I think in today's day and age, if you think people wouldn't Google their symptoms, you'd be silly.
Yes, everybody does. But those images are very useful, actually, aren't they? I remember looking up once the images of meningitis and the glass test.
Yes.
And to actually see for myself what it would look like. And that quelled all of my problems as well, because I knew it wasn't.
So that's a really good point, actually, Anne, because with the scarlet fever rash, it's a blanching rash, which means if you did the glass test, it would disappear. It's not like the meningitis rash, which when you press does not disappear.
Does not disappear.
Yeah, so this is with more of the common conditions. You see the rash when you press down disappearing.
And this is the scarlet fever around the cheeks?
Yeah.
Gosh, you see, that looks like a heat rash, doesn't it?
Yeah, so that's what, in this weather, And again, we keep talking about penicillin, but there are a range of children who are allergic to penicillin, so please don't worry. There are other groups of antibiotics we can give, like erythromycin and things like that. So it's not that if you're allergic to penicillin, you won't get treatment.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think so. The main thing is to say, let's not panic about it, but just let's be informed of the signs and symptoms, and go to your GP and darn well get in there and see your doctor.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if your child gets a fever, gets unwell with these symptoms, specifically sore throat, a rash, reduced appetite, oral intake, and not producing enough urine and things over 12 hours, you want to get some medical advice.
And do you think it's sort of because of lockdown that our children just haven't been mingling enough with lots of other kids with bacterial infections?
I think it is a contributing factor, and the fact that now we're super mingling in nurseries and schools, it could be why it's spreading more. So I think if you have the infection, please keep your child away from school, away from nurseries and busy places, because we want to try and reduce this transmission.
In terms of adults, and just on that point, we all need to get dirty a bit more often, don't we? We need to maybe be hand sanitising a bit less. I mean, washing, soap and water more, but hand sanitising less and
you would
getting
think
out there a bit more.
But this bacteria, actually, similar to how the COVID strain was, does spread through your throat, droplets and your skin. So actually washing your hands quite regularly is a good thing.
Yeah.
If someone is infected, don't share cutlery, towels, that kind of thing, because it can spread through hugging, kissing, any kind of shared.
Well, that's what we had that email in from a viewer who said that they remember going into an isolation hospital. Yeah, we don't use even that phrase anymore, do we? But
it's in your homes
how
now.
it always was with children who had scarlet fever. They could spend weeks in isolation, couldn't they?
Yeah.
God.
Well,
God,
thankfully
those
we're
days
not
are
at that point anymore. That was Heather who got in touch with that. Thanks, Heather. Vina, thank you. We'll catch up with you a little bit later on. Those pictures are very useful, actually.
They are, I think.
Just in
really
case you're looking at those and you recognise those
to watch out
symptoms in
for.
your child, get them to the GP or 111, whatever it may be, and then get some immediate attention. It is 9 minutes past 8. Let's bring it up to date with the rest of the stories this morning. The Business Secretary launching a review to crack down on powerful companies that take too long to pay small firms. It's Small Business Saturday and Grant Shapps says the UK's smallest firms are currently owed £23.4 billion. He's trying to get all that addressed.
Isn't that disgusting? The Foreign Secretary has warned that President Putin could use any peace talks over Ukraine as an opportunity to rearm. Speaking to the Daily Telegraph, James Cleverly says there's a risk that a ceasefire would be used by the Russian president to train up more troops and produce more ammunition.
And Peter Kay brought to tears last night on the opening night of his first live comedy tour in 12 years. He was performing at the Manchester Arena, kicking off on a tour that will go on till 2025.
And today marks 30 years since the first ever text message was sent. 1 in 3 people apparently still send and receive SMS messages every day, and lots of us still use it as our default messaging platform. However, the very first one was sent by the engineer Neil Papworth in December '92, and it read, "Merry Christmas." We've come a long way since then, haven't
Well, we have. Isn't it funny, though? I don't send many text messages now because it's all on these messaging apps
platforms
now. Yes. Which are supposedly more secure and all. And, of course, you can see when people have read the messages normally, unless you've turned that feature off, and Diamond.
I haven't, have I?
Oh, yeah.
Have I?
Yeah.
So when you send me a message, you don't get a thing that it's
No, the
arrived?
tick doesn't go blue. I know it's on your phone, but I can't tell when you've read it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You'll have to show me how to undo that.
That means that you won't be able to see when other people have read yours either.
Oh, I didn't even know that existed. I'm sorry. Ugh.
You say it's very handy when you know someone's read it and then they don't reply.
Yeah.
Got you.
So you know, if you've sent me a text message and I don't get back to you for ages, you're thinking worse of me, aren't
yes. You see, look at this one, you see, and the tick goes blue when it's been read.
But you don't get it from me.
But on yours, I can't see where your messages are on here.
That's the trouble, isn't it? You get these things, you get these phones, you get these apps on your computer, and I don't know half the time, probably 90% of their features.
See, I'm Diamond, here you are, and all your ticks are still grey, because I can't tell. And even when I've sent you lovely pictures of my Christmas tree and everything.
But I did reply, and I said how fantastic it was.
Oh, yeah, you replied.
But you wouldn't know...
But I can't tell when you've read it.
I don't know whether that's a good thing or...
Oh, well, you see, I thought you'd done it deliberately, because a lot of people do.
No.
There you go. The insights. For a small fee to a newspaper, we'll release all of these messages into the public debate.
Nothing interesting, I can assure you.
Not very
really not interesting at all. Like, oh, what a nice Christmas tree.
Hi, Anne, I've been to the garden centre today.
Exactly.
There you go.
It's not mind-boggling. It's a bit like Matt Hancock's diaries, actually, you know. They say it's jaw-dropping, but it's not jaw-dropping at all.
Not really, no. Guess what, folks? In the serialisation, he's appealed for forgiveness for cuddling his lover...
in front of a camera that he didn't know was there.
Who bugged that room? So
I know, we've never really found that out, have we?
No. He said he's only human. But his wife's delighted by that. The ex-minister also appeared on I'm a Celebrity. Of course, was caught breaching those COVID lockdown rules, kissing his girlfriend during the pandemic in his office.
Yeah, well, he's brought out the book now. So he's done the SAS programme that we haven't seen yet. He's done I'm a Celebrity, in which he did very well, you have to say. And, of course, now he's brought out the book, which is being serialised. So, well, I expect a lot of people are going to try and read it.
I don't know. I wonder if the assistant editor of The Spectator, Cindy Yu, will be reading it. Morning, Cindy.
Morning.
Probably for professional reasons.
Well, I've had to now for the extracts, for professional reasons. Yes,
what do you make of it all?
Well, I mean, it's just... So the thing is, with these memoirs and diaries and all that sort of stuff, of course, if you're writing about your own side of the story, you're going to make it look a bit better. And that's always the case for any memoir and diaries. Yeah. Even so, reading this, I'm like, OK, Matt Hancock, you're the one who told Boris Johnson and Dominic Cummings and the head of the WHO, and nobody listened to you that COVID was going to be a big deal. And you've been telling them that since January. It's like, do we believe that? You know, or is it just like a rose-tinted way of looking at your own, kind of justifying, putting your own narrative out there? Because when you look at the actual facts of the matter, you know, he says that Chris Whitty, by end of January, was warning that the worst-case scenario was 820,000 people dead. We never got to that, of course. But if he was thinking that Chris Whitty was right at that point, and that was also the day that the first cases in the UK came out, why didn't he ramp up testing earlier? You know, why didn't he give out more advice on how we can protect ourselves in terms of hand washing or whatever it is? Why did it wait for 2 months before...
Well, Boris Johnson was still going around hospitals shaking hands at that point, wasn't he?
And boasting of doing so, too.
And then the overall image you get of this diary is that Matt Hancock was the only person, along with Chris Whitty, who saw what was coming down the line, who was really worried, everyone else blocking their ears out, and nobody would listen to him. Well, poor you, Matt, because when you're the head of the health department, you know, you should have ramped up testing in those months that you had.
Is it written as a diary, you know, per day? And do you think, I mean, obviously he's gone back over it, even if he did keep the diary day by day by day.
It would have been tweaked.
Yes, he must have tweaked it.
Well, this is the thing, you know, I mean... You would. During that busy time, you know, would you really have time to keep a diary? I don't know.
I don't know.
But, and presumably with all these kind of different memos and all that sort of stuff, it is certainly written in the first person, as if he's jotting down his thoughts every day. And actually, that's probably why it's sometimes so cringe. So
Is it really?
Is it cringy?
At a moment later on, when they're talking about hand washing and what song to advise people to hand wash to, he suggested a national anthem. He got overruled with Happy Birthday. And in his diary, he writes, since when was singing the national anthem an embarrassing thing to do? Sigh.
Oh,
no. My God, Matt, no.
Oh, that doesn't sound credible.
So it's just written in a kind of, I guess, you know what, this is probably what his internal monologue is like, actually.
Yeah.
But
although
now we've got to...
You can actually... You can picture it, can't you? They're around a cabinet table taking really important decisions and they're worried about should it be the national anthem, Happy Birthday or whatever.
Of course.
You can see that discussion going on for ages.
I'm sure it does, yeah. And the other thing that I think coming down the line is the amount of names that he names. Right. And I think we're going to hear people kind of countering his narrative. Yeah. So Dominic Cummings does not come out well in this diary at all for obvious, for expected reasons.
What a shame.
Yeah. But neither does Mark Sedwell, the former cabinet secretary, who he says that blocked one of the Cobra meetings, one of the early Cobra meetings. So he really isn't shy about naming names of people he thinks fell short. And I think we can expect those people to kind of have their reply.
Which also indicates that his political career is absolutely over, because you can't go bad-mouthing everyone who's in a position or was in a position and carry on.
Well, he's a TV star now, isn't he? So he was probably
but he is going to have to face the inquiry, isn't he? Do we know how long that's going to take and when it's going to start? And
I think it started this year already, but all these things
actually started, has it?
Yeah, these things take a long time. I mean, the Chilcot inquiry took years.
Yes, I know.
So. But I think it's really important. And actually reading this, you know, we're here now, we're maskless, we're in the studio. But reading it, you kind of really are taken back to those traumatic first years, really, of the pandemic. And I think a lot of people are not going to be pleased about what is being written because it just seems a bit like shifting the blame. And actually, when you read it back, that rawness of how scary those times were, and people being separated from their families, not being able to go to your loved ones' funerals, that's all going to come flooding back. And I think for Matt Hancock, it's important for him to get his narrative out there for the inquiry, but it's just a question of if anyone's going to believe him.
Well, it'll be very interesting during the inquiry to see if people's recollections differ.
Right.
Yes. You do wonder if a little bit of mea culpa would have been nice. I mean, just because... Whoever had been in charge, whoever had been in whatever job, things would have been, bad mistakes would have been made.
Of course.
Yeah, he does. The only mea culpa I saw in this extract is him saying I should have got private sector testing up earlier. And I think that was by the end of February, early March. But, you know, according to his events, he's known about COVID for 2 months by that point. Well, why haven't you got it sorted then? So, yeah.
Interesting. OK, so, well, look, we'll get you reading the whole book and you can come back every day until you've finished it. Thank you very much indeed.
It'll save us from having to read it then, won't it? Thank goodness.
Yes, I can't face. I can't face it, really.
Don't know whether I can.
But anyway, it's bad enough talking about the consequences of his book. But anyway, each to their own.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Meanwhile, from that to strikes, should we?
Yeah, the UK is set to face a wave of strikes every day until Christmas in a new winter of discontent. I hate that phrase. As MPs urge rail companies to suspend walkouts that could cost the economy apparently £1.7 billion.
Well, nurses, ambulance staff, teachers, many more working sectors are planning action that affect people every day, as you're saying, over the festive season.
Well, to tell us more about these winter strikes, when it comes to postal strikes particularly, is Deputy General Secretary of the Communication Workers Union, Andy Fury. Very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Ed.
Good morning. Have you got your Christmas cards off? Because I gather if you leave it any later, they won't get there.
Well, look, the responsibility for this strike lies at the door of Simon Thompson, the CEO, and his board. The CW want to get into negotiations, serious negotiations, to find a resolution to this dispute. Our members don't want to be on strike, but they want a fair deal where they've got job security.
I mean, talk us through the key points here, because it's not just about wanting more pay, as I understand it. We were talking to your boss the other week, but it's about the fact they seem to be sort of laying people off and then rehiring on 0 hours contracts and things.
Yes, Stephen, when we met before, I explained that Royal Mail wants to do away with at least 10,000 jobs, and that includes compulsory redundancy. And only this week they sent me a letter saying they wanted to agree a criteria for compulsory redundancy, and that would include conduct, attendance and various other ancillary things like customer complaints. Now, we're talking about the iconic Royal Mail here, and there's absolutely no need for compulsory redundancies whatsoever, particularly as they have currently 12,000 agency workers, full-time equivalents, operating within Royal Mail. So if they need to save money, they need to cut costs, they should be doing away with the agency workers first and foremost.
The trouble is, isn't it, that everybody seems to be on strike or threatening strike at the moment. How can any government appease you all?
Well, look, Royal Mail is a private company now since it was privatised by the coalition government. So this is not a dispute with government. We've been in dispute actually since the summer. So like you, I hate that expression, winter of discontent. Our first strike was actually on the end of August, and we balloted our members in July. So incidentally, we delivered a 97% yes vote on nearly an 80% turnout. So we're talking about 115,000 members here. So this is an ongoing dispute. It's more than just pay. It is about job security. It is about terms and conditions, but it's also about protecting the wonderful service. You know, Royal Mail delivers to our members in Royal Mail deliver to 32 million addresses 6 days a week, parcels and letters, and we want to preserve and guarantee that service for the public, for small businesses going forward. Our view is Royal Mail want to destroy that service.
I'll tell you what's interesting with this. Now, I think our perspective is slightly different on this. Partly, yes, because it's all down entirely to a private company, but also because we know our posties. Mm-hmm. Mine came the other day and I asked him what was going on with the strike and what he was doing and all the rest of it. And so naturally, we do feel, I think the public generally feel, I certainly feel, that there's more support. Because these are people I know and have met and say hello to in the street, and it changes the perspective.
Absolutely, Stephen. So look, our members worked during the pandemic. They were out there delivering 6 days a week, walking up and down the paths of the nation's homes and connecting with the public. They did a fabulous job. They were applauded for that. And all we're seeking now is a fair and reasonable deal with job security at the centre of that, but also a future. We need to ensure that there is a guaranteed future of Royal Mail going forward. We have ideas of innovation. Unfortunately, Royal Mail doesn't. Royal Mail just wants a race to the bottom.
Situation right now as we speak? I mean, are you guys talking to each other? Is there any room for negotiation, or is it just stalemate?
Well, we broke down in negotiations just over 10 days ago. The company made what they describe as a best and final offer. We've said that would be a surrender document. It offers guaranteed employment to the 31st of March next year, which is preposterous. We are available and willing to negotiate. I spoke with ACAS yesterday. We've made ourselves available this weekend and every day next week. We want to thrash out a deal, but we've got to get to round the bargaining table, and Royal Mail's got to behave more reasonably and understand the needs of our members, which, after all, is just about securing employment and a fair job with decent terms and conditions going forward.
So are they actually refusing to meet you at the moment?
Yes, absolutely. They've said that they've made their best and final offer, and it's a take it or leave it situation. And we've said that it's completely unacceptable. And our members actually echo that position. They've seen right through this offer. They understand it's ridiculous, and that's why they've continued to take more strike action.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, I think it's actually understandable. Look, really good to see you this morning. Thank you very much indeed. Good to talk to you. Keep us updated on that one. I do think there's a slightly different perspective on this one, because we see these people coming to our doors and you can actually say, what's going on? What are you doing?
I also think that I know that opinions can be entrenched, and if management has said this is our final offer, but I don't think that's good enough. I think we deserve better than that from a company which is called Royal Mail. We deserve better. We deserve them to... They should still be negotiating and meeting.
Yes, absolutely.
They should not be refusing to meet.
But it's the trouble is, it's one of those sectors where if actually it doesn't get resolved, another company will come in.
Well,
and
that's
provide
the trouble.
another
I
service.
think we want our Royal Mail to continue.
We do want our Royal Mail. Should it be renationalised?
I think management should be better than just saying full and final offer, nothing.
I suppose it's just a tactic, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's not good enough, because we deserve better than that. We still want our Royal Mail. We still want our postmen and women.
Gotta say, I think we do. It's not a purely British thing, but there's something very nice about it.
It really is. And we've seen the degradation of the service as well. It used to be two. We were talking about this the other day. Used to be two deliveries a day, didn't there? There always used to be Saturday and even Sunday deliveries, and it's all been pared back, which I understand. You know, that's the modern way, I suppose.
Now £1 a stamp.
I'd really miss. Oh, I know, couldn't get over that.
Oh.
But I'd really miss our local posties if they weren't there. We all would. It's careful what you wish for, isn't it? We'd miss them once they were gone.
We would. Anyway, your thoughts,
Come on,
please,
management,
on that one.
step up to the table.
Oh, I mean, negotiators. GBviews at gbnews.uk. Coming up, we're looking ahead to the Gypsy King. He's fighting tonight, taking on Derek Chisora.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Deebs & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store? You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me! And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Welcome back. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Anne at 8:30. Let's give Peter Kay a run for his money.
Doctor, I feel like a mince pie. The doctor says I've got just the cream for that.
What do you call a chicken looking at a lettuce leaf? Chicken Caesar salad.
Oh.
Lee from Hereford. All dad jokes, obviously.
All right, Ian's got a dad joke. Thieves broke into the police station and stole the toilets. A police spokesman investigating the crime has said they've got nothing to go on.
That's very good.
Why are we talking about dad jokes?
It was something in the papers.
It was, wasn't it? I can't remember why now.
Jess says, a new tomb has just been discovered in the Valley of the Kings. This mummy has been embalmed with chocolate and wrapped in hazelnuts. He's called Pharaoh Rocher.
Ah, Ferrero Rocher. Yeah. Love those. Oh, love them.
Anyway, there you go. Talking of Peter Kay, Wendy from Solihull says, I love Peter Kay, but you won't find many tickets still at 35, more like 135.
Yes, a lot of people are getting in touch over that.
Oh, but that's because, you know, these companies buy them up, don't they, and then chuck their own price on them.
Cheryl says, we need more Peter Kay and less Harry and Meghan.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. There you go, quite right too. We want more Ada McGee as well, who's here. Good morning.
Morning, I'm a dad joke, aren't I? Really?
You are walking.
Yeah, you are.
I've used up my best material. And
I'll bet you've got a fair few.
I have actually, yeah, I have. I'm going to save them, keep my powder dry.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
World Cup's not over yet.
No, it's not yet.
And the big game's tomorrow, isn't it?
Yes, England against Senegal,
Is there anything to talk about it today?
Yeah, I mean, you've got Holland versus USA this evening. You've got Argentina up against Australia. Australia won 2 games in the group. Now, Argentina's interesting because of all the turmoil they had in the build-up to the tournament and Saudi Arabia in the first game, which is probably one of the biggest shocks of all time. We could see a scenario this evening, if they beat Australia as they're expected to do, where they're in the quarter-finals. So it just shows that tournament football ebbs and flows. Sometimes you get the lows, and if you just can recover from that, Messi's been in excellent form for them. They could be in the quarters tonight, and then Holland against USA. That'd be a tough, durable game. I fancy that one to go to extra time. But then, as of tomorrow, it's all eyes on England.
Yeah. So, what sort of threat is Senegal posing, do you think?
Well, my worry, Stephen, is that everyone, including people in our newsroom and everyone I'm speaking to, is thinking, what about the quarter-final against France? We're looking ahead. We're doing what we do sometimes in this country. Now, the England squad will be doing this. The manager won't be doing this. But too many people around the England squad and too many media personalities are starting to talk about France in the quarters. This is a really serious opposition we're facing tomorrow night. Senegal are the African champions. If we'd been the African champions, we'd still be on the open top bus now. That's how big a competition that is. It's got stronger and stronger. And they've got some really serious players as well. Drissa Gueye, who's at Everton, played at PSG. You've got Edouard Mendy, the Chelsea goalkeeper. Kalidou Koulibaly, Chelsea defender. You've got Sheku Kouyaté, plays for Nottingham Forest, experienced, plays for West Ham and Crystal Palace in the past. And Ismaila Sarr, who had a good season with Watford last year. So these are no mugs. And they've managed to get to this stage and get out of the group relatively comfortably without Sadio Mane, who was their star player, who played for Liverpool for the last 5 years, moved to Bayern Munich in the summer. So this is going to be very difficult. They're going to be physical. They're going to be quick. They're excellent footballers as well. They've got tournament experience because they've recently won an event. We haven't got tournament experience in terms of winning an event because it's not happened for us since 1966. No. But I do still think that England will go into it as favourites. But if they get past this, it's going to be a bruising encounter. Who knows what shape we're going to be in come the France game, which on paper at least could be tough. But
so even if we lose tomorrow, we're still in...
No, we're out. It's knockout.
We're out. It's knockout now.
That's the jeopardy increases.
Ah,
so,
right.
I mean, the last games of the group stage are kind of knockout games anyway, because you can go out of the tournament just as easily as you can in the semi-final. But we saw some great games last night. Cameroon beating Brazil, of course, 1-0.
What time's it on tomorrow?
Tomorrow, 7 o'clock.
In the evening?
In the evening, yeah, it is.
And if we get through, when's the France game?
France game, I think, someone was asking me that yesterday, I think that's on Wednesday.
All right.
So, but I'll get that checked for you because it might not be. But I think there's usually a three-day gap. But I'm not looking ahead.
Who do you think is going to start?
I think it depends on the formation. I think Kyle Walker played 57 matches. 57 matches. Yeah, no, he didn't quite play 57 matches. Played 57 minutes against Wales. Now he's the pace. He's the pace in that defence who could strengthen that defence. The defence is deemed to be a little bit dodgy, although they've only conceded 2 goals so far. And then after that, it's about who starts behind Harry Kane, whether he goes a flat back 4, whether he goes a back 5 or a back 3. I think there aren't too many questions outside of the top part of the pitch, and I'd be comfortable with any of those players starting, even Grealish, even Sterling, Saka, Foden. Obviously, Kane's going to start. His ankle was protected the other day. So it's anyone's guess who's going to start in the top part of the pitch. I think, though, that I quite fancy him to go with a back 3.
OK. Well, we shall see. You're normally right on these things, Aidan.
Well, I don't know. My crystal ball's a bit knackered at the moment, so I'm going to dust it down later and see what it says.
Yes.
All right. Yeah.
Tell us more. Absolutely.
That's interesting. OK, Aidan, thank you.
Cheers.
Let's also talk a bit of boxing, because I've sort of got to that point where I'm excited by the Gypsy King.
I'm impressed by how much you know about it already.
The Gypsy King, yeah, I'm a bit of a fan. I've got to say, Tyson Fury is taking on Derek Chisora tonight at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And if you want to talk boxing, I was saying to you, wasn't I, last night, there's only one person you want to talk to, and that is the journalist for The Telegraph, Gareth A. Davis, who joins us now. Gareth, it's fantastic to see you. Great to see you. What do you make of all of this? I mean, he's on the front of the Sun this morning, the Gypsy King, saying, he's going to knock it all out. It's not going to be a problem.
Well, as you know, as you rightly say, the Gypsy King is an extraordinary character and he is worth following. He's crossed over as a mainstream star. I think he will knock Derek Chisora out tonight, but it'll take a few rounds. I expect him to get the victory. I think within 6, 7, 8 rounds. But, you know, heavyweight boxing is littered with upsets. And Derek Chisora, fighting him for the 3rd time, even though he's lost twice to the Gypsy King, Tyson Fury, already in 2011, 2014, believes that he can cause an upset here. Would be one of the greatest upsets in heavyweight boxing, in the history of heavyweight boxing, if Derek Chisora did beat Tyson Fury tonight. Look, it's been much maligned and criticised, this fight, because it's the 3rd fight between them and Tyson Fury's already won 2. But standing in the wings tonight on the ring apron will be Alexander Usyk, the Ukrainian, who holds 3 of the other world title belts. And should Tyson Fury win, he'll step into the ring afterwards and we will get the undisputed title in the Middle East, we believe, in late March.
I mean, that's the thing. It seems if he gets his way tonight, as you say, you know, the battles continue for Tyson Fury. I mean, he's sort of not a young man anymore, is he? Some people say, well, perhaps he's had his day, but I tell you what, I just think he's going from strength to strength still. I could be wrong, though.
Yeah. No, you're not. Look, Frank Warren, his UK promoter, told me yesterday that, and I agree with this, that he's probably our biggest sports star, crossover sports star, since David Beckham. And I really do go along with that. Bob Arum, his United States promoter, has made comparisons with Muhammad Ali in terms of the biggest character we've had out there. Look, he takes the microphone and he sings in the ring after fights. He is an extraordinary and bizarre character. I've covered his life and his boxing career in detail, and there's really no one quite like him. I mean, he can rant with expletives at times, as he did at the press conference at Spurs, because he's over-exuberant. He's had these incredible mental health battles. You know, he's from a big, rough, tough traveller family, 10 generations of bare-knuckle fighters, and yet he's talking about his mental health issues, all those kind of things. So he reaches people in that way as well. I mean, if you recall, Stephen, he lost 10 stone when he ballooned up to 28 stone a couple of years back when he was in the wilderness after beating Vladimir Klitschko to win the world title for the first time, when he was a young man. But now at 34, I think he carries himself so well, and he wears extraordinary suits, and he goes on all kinds of kind of interesting journeys. He's got a third book out at the moment. Netflix are making a series about him. I think we should make the most of Tyson Fury while he's around, because he'd probably only fight 2 or 3 more times.
Yeah.
But it's certainly never a dull moment. It won't be at Spurs tonight. There'll be some drama there. It'll be a little bit chilly. We're not used to outdoor fights in early December. But we'll all have our woolly hats and our scarves and all those things on tonight. And hopefully we'll see the fists fly. And it is the one who wins tonight, you know, I think it will be Fury, will go on and fight, as say, Alexander Usyk, the Ukrainian who holds 3 of the other belts.
You see, I know you're going to love it. If I get my way, I'll have you back on tomorrow for some post-match analysis.
Yeah.
Really good to see you, as always.
Can you take a selfie of your woolly hat while you're watching?
I will indeed. I will send it directly to you, Mrs. Anne Diamond.
Thank you so much.
Look, great to see you, Gareth. Thanks very much indeed.
Yes.
I love talking to Gareth.
I didn't know it's going to be outdoor. It's quite unusual, isn't it, in this sort of weather?
I suppose they'll warm up with all that.
Well, they will warm up, but watching it will be...
Crowd will be a bit miserable.
Well,
They'll love it, though. Can you imagine what it's going to be? The atmosphere will be amazing.
Oh, it'll be amazing, yes. It will.
Anyway, look, we need to take a break, because then we're back with the papers with Emma and Kevin.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you know, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison? I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here. You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us. We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216,
Freeview Channel 236,
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere. Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Just want to tell you about Esther and Phil's show at 10 o'clock this morning. They've got the Immigration Minister, Robert Jenrick, coming on the programme. Oh, we want to hear about immigration, don't we? They want to hear from you. So whether you've got a question about migrant hotels or how immigration is affecting students, get in touch and have your say.
Yeah, you always do on the subject of immigration, but you know how to do it. It's gbviews at gbnews.uk, and then hopefully your question will be asked on the programme. About 10:15, I think he's going to be on.
He is, yeah. Let's take you through the papers. A bit of a rattle through this last one with Kevin Schofield and Emma Wolfe. Morning, you two. Sajid Javid is out.
He's off, the 12th Tory MP to say that he's off. He's held two big offices of state. He's been Chancellor, he's been Home Secretary, and he's joining a sort of growing exodus.
Has he got a nice job lined up?
Probably.
We don't know.
Well, there's a...
Kevin will know.
Well, no, the front of Financial Times, they've got a story saying that he has been in discussions with an investment bank already. But that's his background, obviously. He worked for Deutsche Bank and one or two others, so he's not a stranger to that world.
I think this adds to the real sense of Tory doom, the fact that, you know, a lot of them feel, senior sources are saying they feel they've lost the next election already. And, I think a lot more of them are going to stand down closer, right. Even though they're meant to say now. They'll wait, they'll see how the ground lies.
Who would be Rishi Sunak at the moment? I mean, honestly, he's just watching his...
Problems everywhere he looks.
Labour must be laughing.
Yeah, well, if you want to send him, it might be the only year you get to send him a Christmas card as Prime Minister. When do we need to get them in the post, Kevin?
So because of, again, strikes, they're bringing forward, because the Royal Mail strikes, they're bringing forward the final cut-off point for when you send your cards and parcels. So for second class, it's December the 12th, so not long.
No.
And for first class, it's December the 16th. And it's normally a week later. So if you are, like me, a little bit disorganised when it comes to getting your cards, etc., in the post, then you better get it done sooner rather than later, or else they're not going to arrive.
I would say much sooner than that, because you just don't know how the strikes are going to affect.
Well, quite, yeah, because they're going on strike December the 9th, 11th, 14th, 15th, 23rd and 24th.
Yeah.
So it's going to be massive disruption. If you want your granny to get...
And there are some reports that sorting offices in various parts of the country are already overwhelmed with parcels.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of just a sea of parcels.
No, I'd get them done now if you're going to do it.
Yeah, don't mess about. Don't mess about. It's not the year for it. Emma, can we just have a quick look at COVID in the mirror?
Yeah, this is a
because this is a bit of a worrying
horrible story.
Do you remember the days when we were all used to get your groceries from the supermarket and you would wash them?
You had to wash everything.
And we've stopped doing that now.
We've stopped doing that, and COVID cases were falling, and they're now rising again. We've got 1 million COVID cases in the week of November the 21st, and 6% up. This is a really horrid story, especially at this time of year. We're spending a lot of time thinking about supermarkets and going and getting your turkey and your stuffing and all of that. Apparently, the COVID-19 virus can live for days on groceries like bottled drinks, fruit, peppers, bread, ham and cheese. There's not a huge risk to consumers, according to experts, but it can live for days in the infectious state on our groceries. So that's really quite disgusting.
It's not a pleasant thought.
No. We're going to have to go back to washing our groceries.
A reminder.
Wiping them all down.
Oh my God. Yeah, I do remember that. I thought it'd been left that long. I thought they decided that, you know, you
They
wiped
said it
down your
was-
surfaces, it didn't last very long on surfaces, but now it does.
Now it does.
Yeah, I mean, you still see people cleaning their supermarket trolleys and things, which I just never
Never even think about that now, but I remember, don't even think about it now.
Perhaps they have more sense than we do.
Well, that's the one time I sanitise is when I get back to the car. I've got some in the door of the car and sanitise after touching a trolley.
Yeah.
You just don't
I mean,
know who's been on
obviously, we should be washing our fruit and veg, but things like ham, bread and cheese...
It's the packaging that you need.
on the outside of those.
I'm not washing cheese packets. I can tell you now.
Wipe them down very quickly with just one of those antibacterial wipes.
Oh, can't be bothered.
Well, no, that's the trouble, though, isn't it?
Yeah, the funniest thing was library books being quarantined for 4 days or something. I mean, just really.
Oh,
Yeah.
Clothes being quarantined for 4 or 5 days. I don't know where they went when they were sitting in quarantine, all these clothes and books that were being sent
We were
back.
so careful in the early days.
Yeah, but it's gone
I wasn't.
the opposite way now. I mean, getting a tube into work in the morning, you never see anyone with a mask on, really, very rarely.
Yeah.
And they're busy again, you know, and no one even really thinks twice.
But that's the way forward, because it gets the herd immunity and all that, and we've got to be exposed to it. Because most people who get it now are not very ill. You know, they're not seriously ill.
Although I was at University College Hospital yesterday, just a routine thing, and everybody was wearing masks. I know that's hospital, and I know it's the flu season, but I was amazed. Everybody, I was in a lift and I wasn't, everyone was wearing a mask and they were handed out to everybody at the entrance to the hospital. So there's a lot of masks still going on.
But you still didn't take one?
I didn't.
Yeah.
But you still wear it to go to the doctors, don't you? If you can get an appointment to see your doctor.
Oh no, I don't.
Oh no,
hours.
it said there's a big thing saying no mask, no entry on our doctor's surgery.
Yeah, no. Last time I was there, I didn't.
Still keep a little packet of masks in the car.
Right.
Those sort of things.
Yeah, I suppose we'll all be doing that for a while. Kevin, Emma, it's been good to see you both this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
Now, football. England is going to face Senegal tomorrow in the last 16 of the World Cup, following their victory over Wales.
Of course, football fever...
This week?
It was.
Just a few days
Tuesday,
ago,
yeah. Football fever ramping up, of course, ahead of the big game, and it's inspiring a new generation.
As ever, it always does. Our reporter Anna Riley joins us in Hull now with football player Freya Doy and her dad, who's a football coach, and that's Dave Doy. And a very good morning to all of you. Anna, take it away.
Good morning. Yes, we are here at Pelican Park Community Trust, which is a home of sports in Hull, and I'm delighted to be joined by Freya and Dave. Freya, you're 10 years old, you've been playing football for over 2 years now. What have you been thinking to the World Cup?
Well, I think it's been really good because of like different teams playing in different ways, and it's just been really good to watch.
And how has it been inspiring you with your own football?
Well, it just inspires me to go further on in life, basically.
What do you love so much about the game?
Well, when you're in a football team, you get to meet different people, and then you make friends, and then it's just really good.
Bringing the community together. And what is your score prediction for England versus Senegal on tomorrow?
4-0 to England.
4-0, wow. Bring you in, Dave. So, Dave, just tell me a little bit about the community trust here in football and how you've seen the World Cup bring people together.
So Pelican Park brings 23 teams as well as other activities that's for boys, for girls, for open age, for everyone in the community. It just brings them all together, and the World Cup has brought this excitement where we've got more people getting encouraged to come and play. It's just an amazing thing to happen, an amazing thing for Pelican Park.
And your score prediction for tomorrow?
4-0.
4-0, wow. So there's some real positivity for the England game tomorrow. That's 4-0 predicted, a lot of excitement for the game and a way to bring the community together.
Oh, it's brilliant stuff. And I'll tell you what, Freya's just a little star, isn't she? Absolutely love it. Thank you very much indeed, Anna.
It's asking a lot, though, isn't it? 4-0.
4-0. Well, why not? Why not? If,
Marcus Rashford.
Marcus Rashford could get another couple.
Could do that, yeah.
Foden could get another couple. He's a little dynamo once he gets on. So there you go. I think we've got it in the bag. Why not?
Oh, yeah, we're beginning to sound as though we know what we're talking about as well.
I know, isn't it? It's terrifying. I have to say, I will be watching tomorrow. I quite enjoyed the last one.
Yeah.
Dad jokes, keep your dad jokes coming in if you've got any more, because apparently we do really like them. We've got a natural reaction to dad jokes. It was one of the stories in one of the papers.
It's if you groan when somebody tells a dad joke, what you're actually doing is encouraging them to do another.
Yeah. So classic dad jokes, keep them through, because in the last hour we like to have something to smile about. Particularly, we need that at the moment because everything else is so grim. GB Views at gbnews.uk.
Morning, Alex Deacon here with your weekend weather forecast. Chilly one out there this weekend thanks to easterly winds. Many of us will be dry, but there will be a few showers around, particularly in the east. It's high pressure dominating our weather. The centre of this high is a long way away. Got low pressure down to the southwest, and between the two they're generating these easterly winds, bringing the air in from the North Sea, which is never a warm direction. It's also in the east where we'll see most of the showers today, scattered across eastern parts of England and Scotland. Maybe some more persistent drizzly rain over the Highlands and the Western Isles. Elsewhere, many places dry, perhaps a bit brighter than yesterday. It's not as foggy as recent mornings, and we should see a bit more in the way of sunshine. Bit chilly in places first thing by this afternoon. Temperatures only struggling up to 6, 7, maybe 8 Celsius, but add on that breeze, it will feel colder than that. And still a few showers around this evening, particularly over northern England, down into the Midlands, 1 or 2 across the southeast as well. We'll keep some outbreaks of rain going across the Western Isles of Scotland through this evening too. We'll keep a lot of cloud across the south. That should help to prevent frost. Shouldn't be as foggy again either, but some clearer skies across western Scotland, northwest England may well allow a touch of frost here and there. Most of us, though, will start tomorrow about 3 or 4 degrees. A lot of cloud again tomorrow. And northeast England, southeast Scotland and southern parts of Northern Ireland likely to see the bulk of the showers during Sunday. The showers will be of rain, perhaps a little bit of snow on the tops of the hills. Further south, maybe the odd light shower, but much of the south just dry and fairly drab. Some brighter skies in western Scotland. Temperatures, well, if anything, a little lower tomorrow, only 6 or 7 for most of us. The wind will be stronger as well, so it'll feel even colder. And next week, it's staying cold. If anything, turning perhaps a little bit colder with the possibility of some snow showers later in the week. Stay up to date with the forecast.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and tune-in apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dubes & Co. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Dubes & Co.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by 2 of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late-night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Good morning. It's 9 o'clock on Saturday, the 3rd of December. This is Breakfast on GB News with me and him.
Here's what's making the news for you this morning. And we're starting with very serious news, actually, because 4-year-old Camilla Rose Burns remains in hospital this morning as she becomes the latest child to contract Strep A. It comes as 6 others have died in the UK after contracting the bacterial infection, as health officials issue warnings to parents and staff about signs and symptoms.
Professing his love for his girlfriend and pleading for the public's forgiveness, we'll take a look at Matt Hancock's upcoming pandemic diaries and ask what's next for him, do you think, in his career?
They've been dubbed the 12 Strikes of Christmas. As rail, mail and health workers walk out, we'll bring you the latest updates on how all of this is going to affect you.
And the Prince and Princess of Wales were dressed to impress on the carpet last night, on the green carpet, because it was the Earthshot Prize. Our reporter was there to capture the evening honouring environmental pioneers.
And we love to hear from you, of course. You know how to get in touch. I'm going to go through plenty of these a little bit later on, including one from John, which I want to address particularly. GB Views at gbnews.uk.
Now, how worried should we all be? Because there's some very dismal news and quite alarming news about Strep A.
Yeah, which is something we sort of heard of, but don't really know what it is in a lot of cases.
Streptococcal infection, isn't it?
Yeah. But anyway,
other than that, I mean, we don't really talk about it very much.
No, it hasn't. And there is, Anne says, alarming news, because a 4-year-old girl's fighting for her life at Alderhay Children's Hospital in Liverpool after developing Strep A, and 6 primary school children have died from the bacterial infection. So health officials are issuing a warning to parents when it comes to spotting the symptoms.
So without raising any form of panic at all, maybe we all ought to know what the signs and symptoms are to watch out for. Dr. Veena Babu joins us. Hello, hi. Thank you for being with us all morning, actually. This is really serious health message, isn't it? Because we mustn't panic, but we should know what to look for.
Yeah, absolutely. As we keep saying, knowledge is power. And I think in a situation like this, when numbers are going up, we're seeing young children being admitted to hospital. We've lost some lives, unfortunately. I think as parents, if you have young children, be aware of what the condition is, how they present, and take action as soon as possible.
OK. It's not always that easy to take action, though, is it? This is part of the problem. It's when to try to get an appointment and if you can get an appointment.
Yeah. So I think what we've been saying all morning, look, feel, and feed. So think of these 3 things when you're looking at your child. Do they look unwell? Are they a bit dehydrated? Are they a bit more drowsy than normal? Feel them. Do they have a temperature over 38 degrees? That means they have a fever. There's an infection in the body. Are they feeding? Is their nutrition going down over, say, a 6 or 12-hour period? These are parameters parents can use at home. And then there are additional signs of if the tonsils are enlarged, because group A strep can, as we know, it's common, winter months, lots of children mingling with one another. It can present as tonsillitis, as you can see in the image here.
Now it's worth pointing out as well, the tonsils are the bit on the side, not the bit dangling down the middle.
Swollen two little balls on the side of the throat. The dangly bit is called the uvula. When you see white dots on the tonsils, that's what we call pus points. When there are pus points...
That's a sign of infection.
That's a sign of bacterial infection.
Right.
Yeah. So when you have a viral infection, tonsils are just enlarged and red. But when you have the white dots, we know it's a bacterial infection.
Right.
So if that happens, alongside eating cool, soft foods, you can get Diflam spray from any pharmacy that will help numb the throat, at the back of the throat, so you can eat comfortably. You don't need a prescription for that. But for antibiotics, of course, you need to see your doctor.
Yeah. I mean, but that's a key sign, isn't it? If you've got a bacterial infection, antibiotics will treat it.
Yes, it should do, yeah.
Right.
So you have the strep throat, which presents like that. Then if you present with a rash on the body alongside that and the fevers, is when we have to worry about scarlet fever. Because
now this is what I look like as a boy. So that's scarlet fever on white skin.
Yes, on white skin, it's obviously quite red and raised. And when you press along it with a glass or your hand, it should blanch, which means it should disappear. On darker skin, it may appear as bumps, which almost looks like a prickly heat rash if you look at it. But that's how it appears. It's what we call the typical sandpaper rash. So this, in combination with some children having a swollen, beefy tongue, what we call a strawberry tongue, is typical of scarlet fever.
Right,
Again...
let's have a look at that.
Yeah.
And again, there's that sort of white discharge.
The white discharge isn't always there, but you see the red, big tongue. And parents often say, children complain that they can't taste or they're not very happy with what they're putting in their mouth, and that's a sign enough, really. So we could do a swab of the throat, but the key is starting antibiotics quickly. Another form in which strep infections present is something called impetigo. Have you heard of that at all?
Yeah, it's a skin problem, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's a skin problem which presents with typical honey crust lesions around the mouth or the nose. If it's just a few of these kind of blisters that dry up, we can give topical antibiotics, which is a cream. But if they're widespread on the body, you should have oral antibiotics.
Okay.
These can occur around the mouth, around the arms, around the legs. It's easily treatable, but very contagious. So you want to wait till it crusts over. Don't mingle with a lot of children or pregnant women while you are unwell.
So if your children have any, or anyone has any of those sort of things, they should be alarmed enough to be able to see the doctor.
Yeah, so these are easily treatable causes. And what we don't want is, especially with the cases rising and the invasive part of the infection, so if we don't do anything, sometimes the bacteria can get deeper into the muscles or the organs, and that's when we have the more dire cases, like we talked earlier, toxic shock syndrome or necrotizing fascia, the more serious things, which again, just not to alarm anyone, those cases are around 2 in 100,000, so it's not like we see it all the time. But if your child is not responding to antibiotics within, say, 24 hours of taking it, getting worse rather than better, you don't want to wait. You want to take
make a
pediatric
fuss.
care.
Yes. Yeah, you have the right to. So the poor little girl who's still fighting for her life in hospital, what would have caused that? I mean, and the 6 other children that we know have died of it. Is it that where the antibiotics haven't worked, or they've the symptoms were symptoms were spotted too late, or what?
So it's tricky, isn't it? Because we don't know the background, the medical history, and in what case what they were given. I know in one particular case the child was given a steroid rather than an antibiotic, which is very. I can see why. Maybe the person treating them may have thought it presented as croup, which is very common in young children, and steroid is the key thing that we give to help reduce the inflammatory response. And I think that young girl or boy passed in their sleep at home, and it's just really tricky. It's tricky to say what happened in each case, but I think if you're a parent, being aware of these symptoms, looking at what the images look like, taking action if things are not improving is key, and I think that would be the best thing to say.
Yeah. So it's just about don't panic, just be aware of what you need to look out for.
And feel that it is your right to make a fuss if you're worried.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as clinicians on the receiving end of this, things keep changing. We've been through a pandemic. We understand what panic does. We understand what worry does, but we also understand what it means to not take action, right? So if a parent is worried, it's warranted that we look at the patient, look at the child. So I'm sure your doctors will understand you're not going to be bothering anyone. Get in touch with your GP via e-consult, message, telephone, face-to-face, or 111. And obviously, if they're really unwell, take them to paediatric A&E.
OK. Bina Babu, been great to see you this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
So, yeah, just be aware just be aware. Some of those things, that impetigo looked blooming awful, didn't it?
Yes, horrible. They're all those horrible, everyday sort of things, but we've got to be aware, as you say.
Yeah.
But I always think it's very important as a parent as well to feel that you've got the right to make a fuss if you're worried. Yeah. You really have.
Yeah, quite right too. It's 7 minutes past 9. Let's bring you up to date with some of the other stories today. And the Business Secretary launching a review to crack down on powerful companies that take too long to pay small firms. Grant Shapps is marking Small Business Saturday, which it is today, and saying the smallest firms in the UK are currently owed more than £23.4 billion by bigger companies.
Which is disgusting, isn't it? The Foreign Secretary has warned that President Putin could use any peace talks over Ukraine as an opportunity to rearm. Speaking to the Daily Telegraph, James Cleverly says there is a risk that a ceasefire would be used by the Russian president to actually train up more troops and produce more ammunition to refit his army.
And Peter Kay was brought to tears of joy last night on the opening night of his first live comedy tour in 12 years. He was performing at the Manchester Arena, kicking off a tour that's set to go on until 2025.
And today marks 30 years since the first ever text message was sent. 1 in 3 people apparently do still send and receive SMS messages every day. 20% of us still use SMS as our default messaging platform. The first one, though, was sent by engineer Neil Papworth in December 92, and it read, "Merry Christmas."
Now, here we go. All of you, we read everything that's sent to us. John has been in touch. Morning to you, John. He says, I feel compelled to write to you. Day after day, I watch GB News, but I'm becoming increasingly concerned about the misinformation peddled by Mr. Dixon.
You?
It's Dr. Dixon, actually.
Oh.
It says, to say millionaires are few and far between is inaccurate. Well, I didn't. I said people who earn millions and millions of pounds were few and far between. Currently, he says, there are 2.85 million millionaires in the UK. That's 1 in 23 people.
Really?
Well,
1 in 23?
He'll be right. John will be right on that. The difference is, John, you're counted as a millionaire if that's what your estate is worth. And for a lot of people, and particularly further south, you can have a terraced house that's worth very nearly £1 million.
Yes,
and the people living in it may not be earning very much money at all. And it's only until it gets sold that they would make
what
any
is
money.
and isn't a millionaire is very different
It's very
nowadays,
difficult. They're not cash. These 2.85 million people are not cash millionaires. They haven't got money in the bank. They've just got money in the property.
Yeah.
But the people who make millions and millions of pounds a year are few and far between.
Even then, I find 1 in 23 difficult to take.
Well, even with the properties.
I mean, I know 23 people, at least. I don't know whether any of them are what I would call a millionaire.
Well, probably not in cash terms.
No.
Someone I know in London is selling their house. They've got a very nice house, actually, but it's a semi-detached on a nice road, nice little. Well, they've put it on the market for 1.85 million.
I know. I've got a friend with a terraced house in London. 1.3 million they're thinking of putting it on the market for.
I mean, it's crazy, but they're classed as millionaires.
Buy a house
So they're millionaires.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Because that's what they're worth. It's what you're worth dead rather than alive.
Yes. Doesn't mean you're living like a millionaire.
No.
Or what we consider.
So I'm not peddling misinformation.
Did you? You didn't win the lottery last night.
No, and
you were
I was going to.
You told me you were going to.
Last week, when it was 67 million, I'd worked out what we were going to do. Last night was 112 million, so I got another ticket. And yeah, we've got it all sorted out. What we're going to do, how we're going to split it, where we're going to spend it.
Yeah, well, you even promised me a little bit.
I did,
A little slice, yeah.
Unfortunately, I got one number.
Oh, okay.
So I'm a bit disappointed.
I was going to say that's good, at least one number, but it doesn't do you anything.
No, it didn't get you anything.
It doesn't do anything, does it, one number? Oh, dear.
But anyway, so I'm slightly disappointed.
Well, there's always next week.
Otherwise, John, I'd be in that few and far between category.
What always fascinates me is why, when they announce that it's going to be a bumper win, 184 million or something, why more people then do it that week? Why would you be more interested in doing it a week when there's going to be a bumper than... I mean, it's always worth a lot of money.
Well, I suppose because it's just...
Wouldn't you be quite pleased with just 1 million, let alone 184 or whatever?
Yes, it's
crazy,
it's
isn't
the
it, really?
greed, isn't it? It's just the joy of being
"Ooh, I'll
able
be in
to
for that."
bathe in £50 notes or whatever. It's a very nice thought.
Have you had a lottery win? Tell us what you did with it.
Oh, yeah. You can
What
always
would you
keep it anonymous.
Yeah, change your name. But some people win. There must be people, you never hear about them, people who must win 100,000 or $500,000 or something
I
like
did
that.
see
you
someone...
never hear of those, do
I
you?
did see someone who, on one of those scratch cardy things that they played on their phone, it was a friend of a cameraman in my old place, and he won £1 million. Because I saw the screenshot he'd taken saying, you know, congratulations on this scratch card, you've won £1 million. Yeah. But anyway, there you go.
Oh, I've got to do it.
There you go. Gambling's a very bad thing, ladies and gentlemen. I'll tell you who's not gambling with what may happen at the next general election is Sajid Javid, because he's not going to stand. He says being an MP had been the privilege of his life.
Yeah, but he's moving on, and you wonder what sort of job he's moving on to. Of course, he's been Chancellor. He's held a number of senior roles in government alongside his Bromsgrove seat, and that's the most he's the most high-profile Conservative MP now to decide to step down at the next election in 2024. And that, of course, comes amid rumours, lots and lots of rumours and reports that lots of MPs, Tory MPs, are deciding about their future.
Yes, because Monday is the official deadline, apparently. But, of course, people can do it whenever they like. Let's talk to former Downing Street Chief of Staff to Theresa May. Lord Barwell, good to see you this morning. Is it disheartening or inevitable to see high-profile people like Sajid Javid throwing in the towel?
I think it's a bit of both. I don't think it's a surprise. And as you were just implying, I suspect we're going to see more senior Conservative MPs making the same announcement over the next 6 to 12 months or so. But it isn't great for our politics. He's still relatively young, and I think could have had a sort of significant contribution that he could have made. It reflects, I think, two things. First, the reality that most Conservative MPs don't think they're going to win the next election. So being in opposition is not as attractive a prospect. And secondly, politics has been incredibly turbulent, as you will have noticed over the last few years. And I think some people are just, they're exhausted with it and want to do something different.
I guess it's not surprising after 12 years of the Tories being in power that people like Sajid Javid and others will think, what is there left? What challenges are there left for me? He's already held some very, very top jobs. He's probably going to move on. Do you think he'll go into the Lords, or do you think maybe he'll go back to the City?
I don't know. I would be surprised if he didn't have some role in the City somewhere, given his previous career, but I haven't spoken to him about it, so I can't answer that question. The two are obviously not completely mutually exclusive.
Well, no, they're not, indeed. True. Look, I mean, you said a lot of Tory MPs think they're not going to win the next general election. You're a Conservative peer. Do you think the Tories will win the next election?
I think it's highly unlikely. I mean, first of all, they've been in government for a long time. So even if, we weren't going through an incredibly difficult time at the moment, I think it would be difficult to win another election victory. But if you look at the polling, it's very clear that Boris Johnson and particularly Liz Truss did huge damage to the Conservative brand. And however well Rishi Sunak does over the next couple of years, it's going to be very difficult, I think, for him to win outright.
Boris Johnson has meanwhile said he is going to stand in the next general election. Do you think he is still harbouring a thought that he could actually make a comeback, even back into number 10?
I'm sure he thinks there's an outside chance of that. I think it's unlikely. But look, it's to his credit, I think, that he's going to stand again. My former boss, Theresa May, has stayed in Parliament. I think Parliament is stronger when you've got experienced former prime ministers and senior ministers that stay and continue to contribute. So although I have my differences with Boris Johnson, I admire him for saying that he wants to carry on. And I also think it's to his credit that he's implied he's going to stay and fight the seat he's in right now, which is not a guarantee that he's going to win that seat at the next election, rather than trying to run off to find a sort of alternative, safer seat. So I respect him for saying that.
Yeah. OK. I mean, it does all look quite doom and gloom, though, doesn't it, at the moment? I wonder how much is just the situation we're in, how much is down to the electoral cycle, in one sense, people just feeling ready for a change, do you think?
Yeah, as I said, I think it's a little bit of both. I think even if the Conservatives haven't been through what they've been through over the last 6 months, it would have been difficult. But if you go onto one of the polling companies' websites, they do this kind of tracker where you can look at the polls over a period of time, and you can see really from about a year ago when the Johnson government got into trouble over Partygate, and then particularly after Liz Truss's mini budget, the Conservative support fell off a cliff. And it's going to be very difficult for Rishi Sunak to rebuild from the damage that has been done. So I think both things true, that it's partly just, if you've been in government for a long time, there's the argument that it's time for a change is naturally becomes more powerful. But also, some of the things that the previous Conservative governments have done over the last couple of years have really damaged the party's brand, and Sunak has a very hard job on his hands.
OK, Lord Barwell, good to talk to you this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
Pleasure.
Sticking with the Tories, though, we're going to be having a look at Matt Hancock's
glittering career.
The Pandemic Diaries. You see that flying off the shelves?
They say they're jaw-dropping, but our jaws haven't dropped yet.
Not yet.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness, and then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
There's a guy who went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
9:22, good morning to you. Watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Anne.
Now, the former Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, has appealed for forgiveness for being caught hugging his lover, having a quick snog, insisting he's only human. The ex-minister, who recently appeared, of course, on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, was caught breaching COVID lockdown rules by being spied by that camera that we've never found out actually who put the camera there.
No.
But he was having a quick snog in the corridor outside his office, and that's what brought his come down, I suppose. Anyway, he's written all about it in his new book, which is serialised in the Daily Mail. They say it's jaw-dropping. It isn't particularly jaw-dropping at the moment, but he does include bits about where he said that he actually learned from Chris Whitty that about worst-case scenario would be that 820,000 people would die of COVID, a good 2 months before we actually went into lockdown.
Yeah, which is a worrying figure. Let's see if the jaw of Catherine Forster, our political reporter, has dropped this morning. Has it?
Well, do you know, there are some bits that are very eye-catching. This is a horrible bit, apologies, but on Wednesday, February the 12th, he writes, "Where in Hyde Park would the burial pits be? Who would dig them? Have we got enough body bags?" And I must admit, I read that and I did think, my goodness, I mean, at the time, at the beginning, that figure of 800,000, they had no idea how bad it was going to get.
Except that at that time we were seeing those awful images from Italy. Particularly, where the bodies were piling up and they were having to dig burial pits.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's
awful. So it is quite shocking and it does take you back, and also the sense of chaos, really, and things like they found that there was a huge warehouse of PPE in the northeast of England, but there was only one small door, so they could only get it out one lorry load at a time. But basically, Matt Hancock is saying that he was worried about this from very early in January. Other people weren't sufficiently worried. He's very critical of Dominic Cummings, who, of course, has also been massively critical of Matt Hancock. He's very critical of Public Health England. He's very critical of many things that didn't work well enough or quickly enough. But, you know, this is his account, and obviously mistakes were made. He's saying that it's important that lessons are learned, but he's very adamantly saying he did the best he could under the circumstances, and he's very keen, specifically with care homes, to stress that they didn't know that asymptomatic people could be infectious, could have COVID going back into care homes, and also that actually he's saying now most of the transmission in care homes was driven by care workers going from care home to care home.
It's interesting, though, isn't it, the fact that this is being pitched out. I mean, it's being pitched as a diary. It's laid out as a diary. Whether that is actually how it's been produced or not, we just don't know. But that's quite an important distinction, isn't it, to have it as a diary rather than a memoir, because it's about him laying down what he believed to be the truth at the time.
Yes, and it's been co-written with Isabel Oakeshott, and it's written like, I mean, these are extracts, but it's written in the first person as if he was writing this on New Year's Day. I mean, well, who knows? I wasn't standing over his shoulder, but I would suspect that a lot of this has been put together retrospectively. But it does make it very immediate. It does give you that feeling of, OK, this is where we are and this is what's happening. But, you know, this is his version of history. He is giving the royalties to NHS charities, and I guess he's keen to lay this out, but he's also thinking about moving on. And I suppose that's why he's done the I'm a Celebrity, because probably he's had his last big political job, and where does he go from here? And maybe he thinks with I'm a Celebrity, with SAS, that he can move on and become some sort of television celebrity. I mean, it worked for Michael Portillo, it worked for Ed Balls. I have to say, I think the chances of Matt Hancock becoming a national treasure are limited.
Yes, it doesn't quite have the same ring about it.
No.
I just find it very odd that like, some of the centre pages there are all about the relationship, you know, his girlfriend on the side sort of thing, which is just like, we've heard all about that.
Yes, it's not very interesting, actually, is it?
I haven't heard enough about all of that.
And it must be incredibly difficult for his 3 children who are of an age to know what's going on and have friends in school that will talk about it. And of course, his wife. And on Gina Coladangelo's side, 3 children as well. And,
Really?
And her second husband. So lovely for them. They are deeply in love and all the rest of it. But 2 families, I'm sure, that will have watched in
I wonder
horror.
where we will see him, end up. I mean, Michael Portillo reinvented his career by exploiting his interest in railways and made these wonderful documentary series about railways of the world. I can't see Matt Hancock doing anything quite the same, but who knows? Maybe he's got a side to him that we don't understand yet.
I mean, Michael Portillo was loathed by many people, wasn't he, when he lost his seat in 1997?
People loved that moment of humiliation.
Yeah,
for him,
I
didn't
vividly remember, I was quite young, but I vividly remember it, and lots of people hated him, but he did manage to turn things around, and he's become this, well, he's got a show on GBNews, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But, this really...
Well, to a certain extent, he's come back into politics now by interviewing.
On the other side.
Political figures on the other side, yeah. But for many, many years, he was the guy who made the documentaries about railways all over the world, and stunning they were, too. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, but with this and with Matt Hancock's role in the pandemic, it's difficult to see. I think it's difficult.
He'll be in Strictly next year, won't he?
Oh, maybe.
He will.
Give it another 10 years and we shall see what's happened to him. Catherine, thank you very much indeed. He's younger than me,
I know, that's stunning, isn't it? Because he looks older.
Yeah, but you do think, blimmin' heck. I won't want to be reinventing my career now, but anyway, you never know. Maybe I should become a politician. Not a chance. Stay with us. We've got plenty more to come for you, including the Prince and Princess of Wales. They had a night out in Boston presenting the Earthshot Prize. We'll bring you all the details.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison? I don't believe in prison. I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked. Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing! You remind me of me in the European Parliament.
But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216,
Freeview Channel 236,
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB+ radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 9:33. Very good morning to you.
The Prince and Princess of Wales were dressed appropriately in green last night to celebrate the winners of the Earthshot Prize in Boston, in the USA.
Well, she was.
Yeah,
He's in blue.
Yeah, no, he's in blue, you're right.
He's in blue.
But she looks fab.
Mint green she's
and
wearing.
An emerald necklace.
Diana's.
Is it?
Yeah.
Do you know that?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Lovely. Anyway, the event celebrates the work of environmental pioneers. Saw plenty of celebs walk down the green carpet as William and Catherine awarded £1 million in prize money to scale up their projects.
Well, our royal reporter Cameron Walker was there to bring us the story. Have a look at this.
Well, it's been a difficult couple of days for the Prince and Princess of Wales. First, we had this royal race row be the distraction involving Prince William's godmother. She was forced to leave her honorary role at Buckingham Palace and has been forced to apologise. Then we had this conveniently timed Netflix documentary trailer from the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. But Prince William and Catherine throughout have remained focused on the number one reason why they are in Boston in the first place, and that is Prince William's Earthshot Prize, which has been dubbed his Super Bowl moment, trying to be optimistic about climate change as we find solutions to repair our planet over the next decade. And you can tell that it's Prince William's chance to be a global influence on the world stage due to the number of A-list celebrities who have walked this recycled green carpet, including Hollywood legend Rami Malek. And this is what he had to say about climate change and the awards.
I think we need to acknowledge that this is real. Climate change is a thing that, a concern that people had and questioned for quite some time, and I don't think anybody's questioning it anymore. So the fact that we can all collectively come together and acknowledge that we have the greatest global crisis that we've ever known occurring at this very moment is something we need to recognize.
Well, speaking of the awards, there was one British company who actually won in one of the categories, and that was the Build a Waste-Free World category. And the British company Notpla won that, and they have found a solution to not use plastic and instead use seaweed. And I caught up with them in London before I left for Boston, and this is what they said.
If we win the £1 million award, that would be fantastic news for Notpla to do more R&D. There is so many things we don't understand or don't control about seaweed, so we need more chemists and engineers and all those PhDs that can really help us push the limits of what we can do with seaweed.
Despite the distractions, Prince William and Princess Catherine's visit to the United States seems to have ended on a high.
Oh, he's loved every minute of that, Cameron, hasn't
Nice to see a green carpet instead of a red, anyway,
Yeah,
isn't it?
makes a
It's
change.
lovely. Yeah.
Now,
this is fascinating.
Defibrillators. You'll know what a defibrillator is if you have a cardiac arrest. If you use one within 5 minutes of a cardiac arrest, it raises your chance of survival by more than 40%. It's a no-brainer.
No, absolute no-brainer, except where are they and how do you use them? Well, the government vowed to put life-saving defibrillators in all state schools by June 2023. But there could be, of course, a delay in reaching that target now because of a shortage, apparently.
Yeah, well, let's talk to a survivor of cardiac arrest and now defibrillator campaigner, Benjamin Cuff, who's here. Good to see you this morning.
Good morning to you both.
Look, on the basics of it all, they should be, I mean, you see them in village halls and buildings all around the place now. Schools, obviously, is a key point. They should be just there, shouldn't they?
Yes, definitely. You know, cardiac arrest can happen to anybody at all ages. You know, we're not talking just older people or people who are unwell. I was 17 at the time of my cardiac arrest, so yeah, definitely needed in schools. So I was working at a restaurant. I'd just done a morning shift. I walked up some stairs, believe it or not, and then just collapsed at the top of the stairs, and that's how sudden and simple it can be. The fact that
With no previous problems with your heart?
Had some fits, you know, one a year that they couldn't put the reason on it, and that's because my genetic condition is undetectable unless you do a specific test for it. So these conditions can lie dormant in you for decades, and then suddenly one day.
So there you are at the top of the stairs, and you've collapsed.
Yeah.
Who was there to help, and
So,
what happened?
Luckily, I had a colleague with me at the time that ran to the kitchen, and one of the chefs there that I barely knew, you know, came running out to see what was going on, and he is the main man that saved my life. You know, he did CPR. Someone brought the defibrillator from reception. Luckily, we had one there. Otherwise, I wouldn't be speaking to you guys. He got the defibrillator, used it on me, and he did 2 shocks to get back. And then once they had me back, that was it then. So he had no previous experience of using a defibrillator.
Literally saved your life.
Indeed.
You see, they're fascinating because the ones you see on the TV shows, clear,
yes,
you know, great big things. The ones we see out and about now are smaller, and we know they tell you what to do.
Yes.
Right. So they're very easy to use. This one you brought in, I've never seen anything like it.
So this has been made by a company based in Australia called Rapid Response Revival, and this is the Cellate. So these are.
So that is a proper defibrillator.
Yes.
Just that you're holding
Just
there.
this here is what will be used in the future to save people's lives, just in red. So this is the trainer device, but it does all the same functions as a normal defibrillator would. So we have the slogan on the Cellate of snap, peel and stick. And as you can see, all the instructions.
So you snap that into 2 halves?
So snap this into 2 halves.
Oh.
We peel off the back. And so the sticky pads come off. And then these are the 2 pads that you place on the patient.
body.
So one goes in the top right, then one goes on the bottom left down here.
And it shows you on the front where
It shows you on the front, even in this little case that we have here. It's also got how to do CPR properly and the actual where the pads should be as well. So, you know.
So once you've stuck it on, what do you do?
So this will, by itself, scan for if there is the heart is in fibrillation, which is where it needs shocking. So if it doesn't need shocking, it won't shock the patient. That's the great thing about defibrillators.
So all you have to do is put those pads on the patient.
And then it's going to start reading the patient.
It does the rest?
It does the rest, yeah. It will speak to you, tell it what it's doing. It will tell you when to step away from the patient if it does need to shock and everything else. The only thing that's different with this one, this is a cable in the normal version and this thing is red. So, yeah, they're amazing, aren't they?
That's phenomenal. But you see, price-wise, because you look at that and you think every home should have one of those, never mind every school.
Definitely. So these are £200 and they will last you 2 years before you need a new one. You know, normal defibrillators that you see that are much bigger, they're great, obviously, but they cost upward to £1,000 and there's supply shortages at the moment. So that's why the government is trying to put in a plan to get all these in schools and businesses that I would really push for because cardiac arrests kill more people than the top 3 cancers combined in the UK per year as well.
Do they really?
And cancer obviously gets its attention that it definitely needs, but there's barely any attention on cardiac arrests and defibrillators at the moment.
Wow.
I mean, that's just stunning,
yes,
isn't it?
Indeed.
They're single-use, those, presumably?
So these are single-use, but yes, once you use one, they have this membership as well. So if you pay £10 a month, when this one runs out, you'll get sent a new one automatically as well.
Oh, right.
And when one's used, you'll also get sent one as well, yeah.
Oh, right. So it's not costing you £100 a year, then, in that sense, once you've bought one and...
You're sort of in the system then, and you'll get an email.
£200 for a life.
Basically, yes. That's what it is. And, you know...
So you're campaigning now, to have, well, just to make everybody more aware, I suppose, that they are there.
That would be lovely, you know. Many people are scared to use them. You shouldn't be. As we've spoken about, it tells you what you should be doing. And when you're on the phone to the ambulance service, they'll also tell you what to be doing. And it's just, if you can set up a smartphone, you can use the defibrillator. That's what I like to say.
I mean, the interesting thing is, as you say, people are scared, and I understand it.
Yeah.
Scary things. However... you put it on. If it doesn't need to shock you, it won't shock you.
It won't shock you. Even with normal defibrillators, not just this one, all models of defibrillators will not shock you unless it needs to. So you can't do any harm. And, you know, there's a precedent around men not wanting to use it on women because, obviously, bras need to be taken off and breasts need to be exposed. You know, the person's dead at the end of the day, and that's... We need to save their lives, so you need to do whatever you can.
But that's a key point, is it? If it's a woman, you do need to take the bra off.
Yes, if there's a wire in the bra, definitely, because it obviously has an electrical current that could cause further harm to the patient as well. So bras need to come off, but, you know, as I said, they're dead. The simple fact of it, they need to be saved.
Oh, yeah, I mean, things like that in an emergency, you don't want to bat an eyelid about that, do you?
No.
You know.
What I think is so amazing is how simple it is, because It does the thinking. You don't have to do any of the thinking. All you have to do is get it and put it on the person.
Yes, that's how.
And then even if they don't need a shock, at least you've done your best.
Yes, and the ambulance service will tell you as well what needs to be done, and if you have one there, that's great, but they'll obviously be on the way. Cardiac arrest is, a Category 1 call that needs to be attended to straight away, so help is on the way. The best you can do is try and get a defibrillator or do CPR.
OK, anyone watching right now will want to know how... A lot of people will be thinking, I'll get one. 200 quid, it's worth it. Where do they get them from?
So, as I said, this is called the Cell Aid or the Cell AED. So you type it in cellaed.io online, and that will bring you to the
That's Cell AED.
Yeah, .io, and that will bring you onto their website to order one. And then they are currently pre-order, so they'll be getting shipped in next year. And the company themselves has also pledged 10,000 to the UK government to spread out between whoever needs it as well. Yes, because we have found that there's a shortage of defibrillators in the UK in general. So this company that has made this are committed to getting more of these in the country. And hopefully in the next 2 years, I believe they are planning to get 200,000 within the UK.
And presumably more companies that produce stuff like this, the better.
Yes, well, the solution is right here, to be honest. This is what we need, yes. And if there's a company already doing it, why not jump on it?
And you say that deaths due to cardiac arrest are greater in this country than
the top 3 cancers combined.
I can't get over that.
Yes.
Wow.
And it's a precedent across Europe as well. There are some great European countries that are tackling this much better than we are at the moment, and this is why it needs to be brought to the government's attention to see what can be done. Nobody cares until it happens to someone close to them, is the issue.
Yeah. Well, no, I think that's a fair point, actually. But for 200 quid a pop, well, that brings the price down a lot, doesn't it?
It really does.
Look, really good to see you this morning.
Thank you
very much indeed, Benjamin. Isn't it like Star Trek?
It really is like Star Trek. Yes.
Honest to goodness.
Something so small now and yet a lifesaver. Wow.
Absolutely. I think that might be. I might ask for one of those for my birthday next year. Then you've just got it in the house.
Exactly.
And that's just it.
As important as having a fire extinguisher or a fire blanket in the kitchen or something like that. You never know when you might need it.
Oh, well, there you go. Let us know what you think. Now, talking of technology and things all Star Trek-y, it's been 30 years since the first ever text message was sent.
The message was sent by a UK-based software programmer called Neil Papworth, and it simply read, "Merry Christmas."
Now, we've been working as a developer and test engineer to create a short message service, SMS.
I was nervous that it was going to work. I was relieved when it did work. But back then, it wasn't really much more than that. It was just getting the job done for the day. There was no thought that this was going to be a thing that was going to last. We're going to be talking about in 30 years' time. I mean, I was sending it to a message to a guy that wasn't in the same room as me. He was on the other side of town. I was in one place in Newbury, and he was at a Christmas party in another part of Newbury, and so, I mean, I couldn't see him, so I couldn't see whether it worked or not. But we had people in the room that were on a voice call, people standing next to me, to other people in the room there. So they were the ones that eventually relayed back to me a few seconds later that, they gave me a thumbs up or something and said that it worked, which was the kind of instant relief.
I love it. You meet these very unassuming people, and they basically invented text messaging.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Which has just changed the world. It has changed the world.
Yeah, it has.
Even though we're using other services and things now. It's that first step. Let's talk to technology journalist Will Guyatt, who joins us now. Will, good morning to you. I mean, he really did change the world with that, didn't he? It became just such a staple of our lives.
The crazy thing about SMS messaging was the standard was created about 8 years before the first one was sent. And then it took probably till about 97, 98 till the text message really took off. And it was that first generation of teens that got mobile phones that really drove it. And it was the UK that really drove the development of the text message and SMS and the growth. It's hard to get exact numbers for how many are sent now. You pointed out there that other services are being used. But 10 years ago, on the 20th anniversary of the text message, the estimate was that 8 trillion of them were sent a year. I'd imagine it's probably significantly less than that now because we're using WhatsApp, we're using iMessage on our iPhone and other things, but it's still there and it's a vital service. And also the SMS is the one that's most likely to get through if you've ever got a problem and you're out of zone, out of signal, and you try to send that message to somebody. That's going to be the one most likely still to get through because it just uses the core mobile network rather than the data and 4G or whatever's on there.
It's given birth to a whole new generation of youngsters now, though, who never phone people. They don't actually talk on the phone anymore. They just text, don't they?
Yeah, I lament the loss of the phone call. I still remember, spending time calling people, but it was the text message that first enabled you to do that in around about 160 characters. And that meant that people just stopped using the telephone. But interestingly, what I'm seeing amongst young people now is people send each other voice notes. It's the most bizarre thing ever. If you've ever used WhatsApp, they just talk into their phone and send a voice note. I don't want to listen to a voice note in public. I want to read what somebody sent me.
You can hold it up to your ear. You can hold it up to your ear, and it'll just play in your ear rather than on your speaker.
I realise that, but then why am I holding it up to my ear if I'm not making a phone call? It's one of those things whereby but there's so many different ways of doing this now, and the one thing is talk is so much cheaper these days. I can still remember in the 1980s my dad standing at the bottom of the stairs and shouting at me if I was on the phone for more than 2 minutes to a friend in my local town. The whole world of communication, we've all become, bizarrely, we talk about sort of the internet and things fragmenting us. We've all actually become so much closer as a result of all of this too. So the text message, we shouldn't understate the importance of the text message. I also love the fact that Newbury was involved in this story again. Britain was involved in creating and making the text message a success. The first mobile phone calls were made in Newbury, and then the first text messages were sent in Newbury too. So we sometimes think that the UK's kind of lost its way in the world of tech, but it was there and involved. And like you said, what a lovely, unlikely man sat there in his shed or wherever he was 30 years later, just telling you unassumingly about his impact on the world.
Yeah.
It's remarkable, isn't it? As you said, we invented the internet as well. We did the whole shebang here.
We did, yeah.
Britain changed the world,
Tim Berners-Lee. Britain has changed the world in many ways, and hopefully it will again. Without, I'm here to talk tech rather than politics, but I really hope that the UK can keep its grip and its position in doing all of this kind of stuff and shaping some of the world's technology. And who knows? And I'm excited what we'll be talking about, what we'll be celebrating in another 30 years. Because to some, 30 years is like 2 minutes ago. For me, it's about 2/3 of my life, and I'm excited to see what's coming next.
Well, look, the sheer fact that we're talking to you, you've just opened your laptop, presumably, and you're talking to us just like that. 30 years ago, we wouldn't have thought that was possible either.
No. Yeah, you would have needed a satellite truck and all sorts of stuff, wouldn't you? Exactly. So the wonders of modern technology, hey?
Oh, yeah. When I first started out in television, if you wanted to interview anyone remotely like we are to, I used to have a fake phone, pick up the phone,
and
be talking like that to you. That's the only way we could do it. But, all these years later. The fake phones, yeah. Now it's just like that. Everybody's on Zoom or Skype or whatever. Thank you so much for joining us.
Really good to see you, Will. Aidan and Stephanie are here. That's almost your entire lifetime, Stephanie.
No, it really is. I had my first phone when I was 14, which was in the year 2000, and I had a BT Cellnet brick phone, which is currently on eBay for £7.60. Oh. And seriously, sending that first text for me was it just felt otherworldly. I was like, this is Stephanie and this is my first number, and just getting responses from all my other year 9 classmates was just, I loved that. It was such a moment.
Have you kept all your phones since? I've still got my old
I
phones.
keep my phones,
I've got a few. Phone technology was just pie in the sky when I was a kid. Really. I remember my dad getting a car phone with his Nissan Micro Hollywood in 1995.
Great big thing in the middle by the gear stick.
I got the same one as you, Steph. Christmas 99, I've had it verified for my brother because he got the same one as me. Mine was pinched. Mine was pinched in Wetherspoons in Bromley after about 3 weeks, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I had a partner who worked in, when we were at university in Norwich, she worked at the local pizza pasta restaurant, and she said to me, page me at the end of the night and I'll bring you home and let me know whether you want a pizza or a pasta. And so the paging used to cost about £1.50. It'd take about 5 minutes to deliver it. And then some friend of mine says, look, if you get a phone, you can text message, I thought, I'd never heard of this at all. And then my friend of mine, and then back then it would cost about 60p to send a text.
They were quite
just
pricey.
to say hi.
That's pricey.
My friends used to say, look, if you want to come around and say hello, just come around and knock on the door, because I won't be replying.
I tell you what, they had the uses of the big phones when I was first working in radio, and it was the big, you know, the big classic sort of big lump of cheese shape thing. And you went to press conferences. Actually, when Abby Humphreys, the baby Abby Humphreys, was kidnapped from the Queen's Medical Centre in Nottingham, and I was there at the first press conference, covered all of that.
What year was that, Steve?
That would have been about 93, or something like that, and used it as... You could use the phone as a mic stand at press conferences.
Oh, wow.
So it was very handy. Multi-purpose, you see, you don't get that anymore.
You get enough of them, you build a house.
Well, you could, those bricks.
Yeah, they were huge, weren't they?
One thing was the Blackberries, though. There was the era of the Blackberries and the BB Messenger. Oh, my gosh. I think that was quite revolutionary for messaging.
The keys were too small, weren't they?
I know.
Oh,
I
no.
liked them.
I loved Blackberries.
Yeah.
And every now and then I will still look at them and think, oh, I wonder... But you wouldn't want to go back to a keyboard now. No. But I was so reluctant to get rid of a keyboard.
People were very fast on them, weren't they? With both thumbs. Never been able to do that with both thumbs. But
that's it. It's interesting. The SMS thing is interesting because I've looked at my bill that I got last week, and I have a 5,000 allowance of text messages per month. Like in the month of November, I used 112.
Yeah.
So they're getting quite obsolete, aren't they, really?
Yes.
Well, they are. It's just all these other platforms which are supposedly more secure. I mean, you've Signal and Telegraph and WhatsApp.
But you can upload pictures on them.
Yeah, and the voice notes as well.
See, I like a voice note.
The same here.
No,
I get a voice note from you, Stephen.
Yeah. you do a lot of voice notes.
I do a lot of voice notes. Yeah. But it's that thing, I know what you mean about, well, you could just ring up, but you never know if someone else is busy or whatever.
No, it's really easy. Very good. I think voice notes are really good.
I always write in full English. I hate receiving text messages with slang.
When texts became very common, everybody was very worried that children would never learn how to spell properly and all that. It hasn't really happened, has it?
No, I was worried about that as well, though, because you just never used to see it, although it does correct it now into the correct punctuation.
Yes, it does.
When I receive a message in slang, it really makes my blood boil. I'm just like, just write in English, please.
Yes, I quite agree. Proper punctuation.
Yes.
Remember that famous case in when it came out in the Leveson Inquiry about 10 years ago? Rebecca Brooks was talking about receiving a message about bereavement from David Cameron. He thought LOL meant lots of love.
Yeah. I always thought it meant lots of love.
Yes, I did. I did up until that point when we all had to pretend we were laughing at David Cameron.
Yeah. I thought it was lots of love. Let's laugh out loud.
Laugh out loud, but everyone puts LOL now, and I bet no one's ever laughing out loud.
No, but nowadays you put an emoji of a little smiling face or something instead of LOL, don't you? The emojis have now taken over.
If it's one of my jokes, I doubt there are too many lols anyway.
No.
Have you been working on a dad joke for me?
No, I haven't actually. I borrowed one of your ones from the Views earlier on and told Philip Davis, and he's still on the floor laughing.
Right, yeah, I bet he is. Aidan, Stephanie, thank you very much indeed. We'll catch up with you tomorrow.
And talking of Esther and Phil, they've got a big interview coming up with Robert Jenrick, haven't they, about immigration. If you want to get stuck in on that, GB Views at gbnews.uk, you've still got time to get a question in.
Yes, you can. He'll be on the show about 10:15. We'll see you tomorrow.
Morning, Alex Deacon here with your weekend weather forecast. Chilly one out there this weekend thanks to easterly winds. Many of us will be dry, but there will be a few showers around, particularly in the east. It's high pressure dominating our weather. The centre of this high is a long way away. Got low pressure down to the southwest, and between the two, they're generating these easterly winds, bringing the air in from the North Sea, which is never a warm direction. It's also in the east where we'll see most of the showers today, scattered across eastern parts of England and Scotland. Maybe some more persistent drizzly rain over the Highlands and the Western Isles. Elsewhere, many places dry, perhaps a bit brighter than yesterday. It's not as foggy as recent mornings, and we should see a bit more in the way of sunshine. Bit chilly in places first thing by this afternoon. Temperatures only struggling up to 6, 7, maybe 8 Celsius, but add on that breeze, it will feel colder than that. And still a few showers around this evening, particularly over northern England, down into the Midlands, 1 or 2 across the southeast as well. We'll keep some outbreaks of rain going across the Western Isles of Scotland through this evening too. We'll keep a lot of cloud across the south. That should help to prevent a frost. Shouldn't be as foggy again either, but some clearer skies across western Scotland, northwest England may well allow a touch of frost here and there. Most of us, though, will start tomorrow about 3 or 4 degrees. A lot of cloud again tomorrow. And northeast England, southeast Scotland and southern parts of Northern Ireland likely to see the bulk of the showers during Sunday. The showers will be of rain, perhaps a little bit of snow on the tops of the hills. Further south, maybe the odd light shower, but much of the south just dry and fairly drab. Some brighter skies in western Scotland. Temperatures, well, if anything, a little lower tomorrow, only 6 or 7 for most of us. The wind will be stronger as well, so it'll feel even colder. And next week, it's staying cold. If anything, turning perhaps a little bit colder, with the possibility of some snow showers later in the week. Stay up to date with the forecast.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236,
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.